Chapter 716. Seeking help from Yaowang Sihua immediately called Master Bing. After hearing Li Dilei's condition, Master Bing didn't care and agreed to let Yaowang take a look at him. After all, half of Li Dilei's restaurant's income was given to House Zhao. As House Zhao's illegitimate son, Master Bing naturally couldn't ignore the people who worked for House Zhao. Besides, Sihua also wanted to introduce his cousin to Master Bing. Working for Master Bing would give him a bright future. Li Dilei sighed in relief after knowing that Master Bing was willing to help. He heard that Master Bing had many masters around him, so he wasn't afraid that his problem couldn't be solved. In a private room at the back of the floating cloud, Yaowang frowned as he looked at Li Dilei's body. "Yaowang, how is it?" "My cousin's problem." Sihua knew that the problem was serious when Yaowang didn't speak. Yaowang came from an ancient medical family. Not only was he an expert in poisons, but he was also an expert in medicine, especially the art of harming people. That was why Yaowang didn't think much when he heard that Li Dilei was stabbed with a few silver needles and lost feeling in his left hand after they were pulled out. He thought that it was some kind of poison or acupoint sealing technique. Speaking of harming people, his family was the ancestor of harming people. Was there a problem that couldn't be solved? It was just a small trick. However, when Yaowang saw Li Dilei, he realized that his thinking was too simple. There was no poison on Li Dilei's silver needles. Yaowang had tested it on a white mouse with the silver needle he pulled out. It didn't seem like it was done through acupoint sealing either. Li Dilei's hand wasn't immobile like it was after his acupoint was sealed. Instead, it was slowly necrotizing. His entire hand had turned a dark purple color as if the tissue of his hand was destroyed. "It's not looking good. The opponent is a master." "Who did it? Do you know who he is?" Yaowang didn't dare to be careless. It was the first time he saw such a method of harming people. It was far beyond the methods in his sect. It was unbelievable. "Lin Yi." Sihua gritted his teeth when he said the name.
"What? Lin Yi?"
Yaowang was no stranger to this name. Uncle Zhu was beaten half to death by Lin Yi and was still lying in bed. Zhao Qibing's legs were also broken by Lin Yi and he could only rest in a wheelchair. Lin Yi again. Zhao Qibing heard the name and panicked. "Isn't he injured? How can it harm others?" "It's hard to say." Yaowang shook his head. From the way he uses the silver needles, it's hard to say if Lin Yi is a medical expert. "So you're saying that Lin Yi recovered his strength by himself?" Qibing's eyes widened and Uncle Zhu, who was lying on the bed, almost spat out blood. Uncle Zhu felt wronged. He almost died and went to see the King of Hell, but Lin Yi was perfectly fine. He was still alive and kicking. How could he harm people? Was there any justice? "I'm not sure if he recovered his strength, but even if he's not at his peak, it shouldn't affect his movements." Yaowang's expression was serious as he carefully checked the silver needles on Li Dilei's body. Of course, Li Dilei was the most pitiful. Even Yaowang couldn't do anything? Didn't that mean he could only wait for death? His left hand had turned black and purple. It was clearly necrotic. He would definitely lose his hand. But Li Dilei wasn't in the mood to think about whether he lost his hand or not. It was already good enough that he could stay alive. "Master Bing, Yaowang, save me." Li Dilei's face was covered in tears and mucus. He was scared out of his wits. Yaowang suddenly paused and his expression became more serious. "There's pure energy under the silver needles?" Li Dilei was just a normal person. He didn't practice any internal or external martial arts, so it was impossible for him to have pure energy in his body. Even if there was a trace of pure energy, he wouldn't be able to detect it. However, Yaowang felt an obvious fluctuation of pure energy under the needle. What was going on? "What do you mean?" "Yaowang, my cousin can be saved?" Sihua froze and asked quickly. Li Dilei looked at Yaowang helplessly.
"He didn't want to die."
"I'm not sure yet, but I need to do some research." Yaowang said, "I need to pull out another needle, but it might cause the same result as this left hand. I might also find a way to cure it."
"Ah?"
Li Dilei was dumbfounded. Pull out another needle? Where should he pull it out? He looked at the silver needles all over his body and didn't know where to pull it out. Think about it yourself. This is the only way, Yao Wang said. How about pulling out the silver needles on my left arm? My left hand is useless anyway. It won't affect me too much if I do it again. Sihua thought about it and asked. Okay. Li Delay gritted his teeth. He had no other choice. He could not sleep at night, right? If he accidentally dropped the silver needles while he was sleeping, he would be waiting for death. Yao Wang nodded and signaled Li Delay to extend his left arm. Then, he quickly pulled out the silver needles on Li Delay's left arm. After the silver needles were removed, Yao Wang moved again at lightning speed and grabbed the spot where the silver needles were.
Ah,
I can't move my left arm either. Although Li Delay predicted this outcome, he still had some expectations. Now that he couldn't feel his left arm, he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Yao Wang, how is it? Sihua saw Yao Wang open his eyes and quickly asked. My left arm is useless. Yao Wang took a deep breath and said, but I think I know what they did.
oh.
What did they do? Sihua asked. Lin Yi attached his pure energy to the tip of the silver needles and injected it into Li Delay's body. Then, he used the needles to seal the pure energy so that it wouldn't spread in Li Delay's body, Yao Wang said. As long as the silver needles are pulled out, the pure energy will spread rapidly. Li Delay is a normal person, and his body can't handle such a strong pure energy invading his body. This caused the pure energy to rupture his meridians and muscle tissues, causing his nerves and tissues to die. He felt it with his hand before. Although there was pure energy on the silver needles, it was only at one point. After the silver needles were pulled out, the pure energy at that point spread rapidly. Chapter 717. Even a god can't save him. Lin Yi is a medical master. He's not weaker than me. Although I can see through this method, I don't have a solution, at least not yet. Yao Wang smiled bitterly. Even his master wouldn't be able to do this, let alone him. This method was too cunning. He would die as soon as the needles were pulled out. Uncle Zhu was shocked as well. He knew that he didn't lose unjustly. His opponent was a medical master who wasn't any weaker than Yao Wang. Wasn't he still alive and kicking? What should we do now? Sihua asked. There's nothing I can do for now. Yao Wang shook his head. Unless someone can dissolve the pure energy in Li Delay's body the moment I remove the needles, it will cause severe damage to his body and meridians. Sihua's face turned ugly. Even Yao Wang couldn't do anything, so how could Li Delay be saved? The needles couldn't be pulled out for a day or two, but they couldn't be pulled out forever, right? Judging from the position of the needles, Li Delay's body would probably be necrotic after they were pulled out. Whoever started the trouble should untie it. We belong to different sects, so our methods are different. I don't understand their methods, so there's nothing I can do. Yao Wang blamed it all on the fact that he wasn't from the same sect as Lin Yi. It wasn't because he was useless, but because different sects had different methods. Yao Wang, you want me to look for Lin Yi's? Sihua's expression was strange. What was the use of looking for Lin Yi now? Their hatred was like fire and water, so there was no way to resolve it. Or, I can ask someone from my sect and see if they have a solution, Yao Wang said. Thank you, Yao Wang. Sihua quickly thanked him. Sihua thanked Lin Yi profusely. He wouldn't have begged Lin Yi if there was even a sliver of hope, since asking for Lin Yi's help would just be asking for humiliation. All I can do is ask. After all, different sects have different research directions. The Medicine King was trying to absolve his sect of responsibility. I understand. Sihua nodded. Yao Wang then called his sect, but they couldn't come up with a solution. Firstly, they didn't see Li Delay in person, and secondly, it was the first time they heard of such a method. How was it? Sihua quickly asked after Yao Wang ended the call. Li Delay looked hopeful as well. There's a way, but there's no way to do it. Yao Wang would not directly say that there was no way. That would make his sect seem too useless. You can't control it? No matter how difficult it is, as long as you can save Li Delay's life. Sihua quickly said, what do you need? Just tell me, Yao Wang. I need a master above the earth class to quickly dissolve the pure energy in Li Delay's body when I remove the needles. The Medicine King said, however, This would consume a lot of that person's innate qi. Normally, no one would risk their strength to do this. What the Yawang said was a more common method, but no one would take the risk. After all, who didn't train hard to get their strength? Why should he waste his true qi for an outsider? Wouldn't he be an idiot? Yawang's words were like a bucket of cold water. Sihua instantly lost his temper. Where could he find an Earth class master? The mystic class was already a phoenix's feather, let alone an Earth class. Even if he found one, he wasn't related to Li Delay. Why would he risk his own level to save Li Delay? Sihua really didn't want to look for Lin Yi, but he couldn't just watch his cousin die, right? Bro, why don't you look for Lin Yi? We have to try. If he doesn't care, then I'll just die and blame my bad luck. Li Delay didn't have any thoughts of revenge at all. There was no other reason. Even Master Bing was crippled by Lin Yi.
Who was he?
With his strength, going to Lin Yi for revenge was *T. If Lin Yi was so easy to take revenge on, would Master Bing still be sitting in a wheelchair? Sihua thought about it and couldn't help but look at Master Bing. After all, Master Bing and Lin Yi had a huge grudge. If he begged Lin Yi now, wouldn't he be showing his weakness? Delay did a lot for House Zhao. I can't just watch him die, can I? Master Bing waved his hand. Just pretend that I don't know. It's also a good chance to test Lin Yi. One had to admit that Master Bing was good at buying people's hearts. This was also the reason why House Zhong's father and son worked so hard for him. He didn't need to spend a single cent to do Sihua and Li Delay a favor. Sihua and Li Delay were grateful. Sihua said, "Thank you, Master Bing. We're very lucky to be able to work for you. All right, hurry up and look for Lin Yi. Earning more money for House Zhao and me is more important than anything else." Master Bing waved his hand. Master Bing waved his hand. His hatred for Lin Yi deepened as he pondered on how to get rid of Lin Yi once and for all. It would be best if he could kill him in one move so that he couldn't fight back. Otherwise, with a dangerous person like Lin Yi and Songs Han, he had to be cautious in everything he did. He didn't know how he met Lin Yi. How could he live if Lin Yi messed with him again? Sihua dialed Lin Yi's number right away, not daring to delay. Lin Yi's number wasn't anything secretive, and it was easy to get it. Sihua had gotten it from Zhang Wen long ago. Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Tang Yin just got in the car when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hellos." Lin Yi picked up. "Is this Lin Yi?" "I'm Sihua." Sihua was furious on the inside, but he looked calm on the outside. "Oh, Sihua bro, what's up?" Lin Yi heard Sihua's calm tone and asked faintly, as if he didn't know why Sihua called. However, this Sihua bro sounded a little ironic in Sihua's ears. Did Lin Yi need to call him bro? It seemed like he didn't need it at all. This was the second time Sihua had a direct conversation with Lin Yi. The first time was in the floating cloud bar, where he'd used threats and promises, but Lin Yi didn't even give a damn about him. Lin Yi had even killed the 2 golden class masters beside him, and Sihua had lost a lot of money. Forget it. Let's not beat around the bush. You're the one who caused my cousin Li Delay's injury, right? Sihua decided not to pretend anymore. The conflict between him and Lin Yi was irreconcilable. Chapter 7:18. Make him wish he was dead. Sihua was quite pissed off. It really was this idiot who pulled out the needles. But he knew that he couldn't get angry right now. "Lin Yi, I hope you can let my cousin go. I don't want to drag other people into our feud." "Are you an idiot?" Sihua's words made Lin Yi a little impatient. He'd be dead already if I were to count what happened between us. How could he still be standing? Besides, I only did it because he pissed me off. Sihua was speechless at Lin Yi's words. He had to admit that Lin Yi's words were quite infuriating. Then,
"Can you let him go?"
Sihua said awkwardly after a couple of coughs. "He's not dead yet. Why would I let him go? You don't have to call me if he's dying." Lin Yi said. "Besides, don't you have a master with you? He can make deadly 7 herbs poison. You think he can't solve a small problem like this? All right, I'm busy and the pretty girl needs me to drive.
Bye."
Lin Yi didn't wait for Sihua's reply before hanging up. Sihua looked at the disconnected phone, troubled. You're very busy, huh? Did he think he was a cowboy? But he didn't dare say that out loud. He had to keep calling Lin E. Oh, shield bro. Is that landmine dead? Yushu asked after Lin E finished the call. I don't think so, but he's dying soon? Lin E didn't know how many needles Sihua had pulled out. Man, it's no fun if he's dead. Yushu said with a shake of her head. Shield bro, can you make him wish he was dead? I guess. Lin E said. But I can't see him now, and I can't be bothered to save him. Oh, I guess that Sihua will call again. Maybe you can make his little brother wish he was dead? Yushu suggested. Yushu hadn't even finished her sentence when Lin Yi's phone rang again. Hey, didn't I tell you I have something to do? You don't understand me, do you? Lin Yi wasn't polite at all. Lin Yi, I'm at my wit's end. That's why I'm calling you. I'm sure you understand. Afraid that Lin Yi would hang up again, Sihua said in one breath. Save my brother's life. Tell me whatever you want. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was taken aback. It seemed that the master beside Zhao Qibing wasn't that great after all. At the very least, he wasn't as strong as him. Uncle Tang's leg is broken. You can pay for the medical fees. Lin Yi was prepared to listen to Yushu's opinion and make Li Delay suffer. However, a fate worse than death was still better than death, right? As a result, Lin Yi didn't plan on doing it for free. He wanted Sihua to pay a price for it. No problem, I'll take out 3. Sihua wanted to take out 300,000, but was interrupted by Lin Yi. 3 million. I'll tell you an account. If you don't see the money before dark, you don't have to give it to me. Use this money to buy a better coffin and grave for your cousin. Lin Yi thought that Tang Yin's family would need at least 1 or 2 million to buy a house, so 3 million wasn't too much. He just needed to go out for a stroll and meet an unlucky bastard who gave him the money for the house. All right. Sihua was a man who did big things. Although his heart ached when he heard that Lin Yi wanted 3 million, it wasn't much to save his brother's life. Lin Yi didn't have much cash on hand right now. The 100 million he got from Lu Tianyi and the money from the auction were all invested into the medical company. If he wanted to expand, he would need a lot of money. So, although Lin Yi had a big family business, he didn't have much money on hand. Lin Yi texted Sihua the bank account Mrs. Tang gave him and waited for the money to come in. Tang Yin wanted to say something, but Meng Yao and Yushu were there. She didn't say anything and let Lin Yi do it. Fortunately, Tang Yin comforted herself that it was for her father's medical fees. She didn't feel bad taking it. If she took so much from Lin Yi, she would owe him more and more. Oh, shield bro, didn't you want to make him suffer? Why did you save him? Yushu asked. Doesn't that mean he's still alive? Lin Yi smiled. Ha ha ha. Yushu started laughing happily. Shield bro, you're so bad. You're almost the same as me. I'm not as bad as you. Lin Yi shrugged. Yushu was better than him when it came to messing with people. Tang Yin and Meng Yao couldn't help but laugh. The Miss didn't know much about money, but she was surprised that Lin Yi was able to get 3 million right off the bat. So Lin Yi was this good? How could he get so much money so easily? Judging from his expression, he didn't seem to care about money at all. Meng Yao started to get nervous. Did she always threaten him with Lin Yi's salary? Wasn't it a joke to him? But Meng Yao was getting more and more confused. Why would Lin Yi come to work for her? With Lin Yi's skills and methods, there was no need for him to work for her for 30,000. Where did her dad find such a master? Yao, Shu, where are you guys going now? Lin Yi turned around and asked. Tang Yin and I are going to the night market to buy something? We're going too, right? Yao sis? Yushu winked at Meng Yao. Meng Yao wanted to go. I want to eat fried mushrooms. Yao sis, can you come with me? Yushu held Meng Yao's hand. Okay, let's go together. Meng Yao nodded. Tang Yin pouted unhappily. Why did they have to tag along when she was going on a date with Lin Yi? But Tang Yin couldn't say anything. The Miss just treated them. How could she chase them away? That wasn't right. Lin Yi didn't say much. If the Miss wanted to go, then go. Lin Yi started the car and drove towards the night market. On the way, Tang Yin received a call. It was from Mrs. Tang. Mom? What's up? Tang Yin didn't know why her mother would call her at this time. Didn't she know that she was going out with Lin Yi? Usually, her mother wouldn't bother her when she was on a date with Lin Yi. Chapter 719. Saving her life, however. Even though she didn't know much about mobile banking, she had often read about text fraud in newspapers. So, when Mrs. Tang received 3 million yuan out of nowhere, she was shocked. She didn't know what to do. It's here's. Tang Yin paused. It's not a scam, it's Lin Yi's medical fees from Qibing Real Estate.
Ah,
Lin Yi's medical fees? That means it's real? Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. I'll go check the bank right now. I've never seen so much money in my life. Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. She had been worried about buying a house tomorrow, but now that she had 3 million, it was enough to buy any kind of house. Lin Yi was amazing. He broke Qibing's leg and didn't ask for medical fees. Instead, he asked for 3 million. Old Tang's leg was worth it. And Tang Yin didn't say anything else and hung up. Tang Yin wasn't afraid of Meng Yao knowing that her family was poor, but she was afraid that they would laugh at her if they knew how greedy her mother was. Not long after Tang Yin received the call, Lin Yi received a call from Xihua. Lin Yi, I've transferred the money to the account you gave me. When can I save my brother? Xihua said straightforwardly. His relationship with Lin Yi was purely based on benefits. There was no need for pleasantries. Oh, I'll tell you how to save him. You can do it yourself. Lin Yi said casually. Just find a surgeon and cut off the flesh in a 2-centimeter radius around the needle. You'll be done with it. What? Cut off the flesh? Sihua's eyes widened when he heard Lin Yi's words. Are you messing with me? I'm not messing with you because of 3 million. Lin Yi said faintly. Tell my words to the doctor beside you. He'll know if I'm right or not. I don't have time to waste with you. This is the only way to save your brother's life. All right, I'll believe you for now. Sihua took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. Lin Yi didn't pay him any attention, hanging up the phone right away. It had been a long time since he'd been ignored like this. Even House Zhao wouldn't look down on him like this. But Sihua couldn't hold it against Lin Yi. It wasn't the first or second day he'd wanted to kill Lin Yi, and as long as he didn't kill him, he'd have to endure it. Sihua didn't dare delay and repeated Lin Yi's words to Yao Wang, only for Yao Wang to slap his forehead and exclaim, "Why didn't I think of that?" Since this true qi was not easy to get rid of, wouldn't it be better to just dig it up and throw it away? It's actually so simple. Sihua paused at Yao Wang's reaction. Does that mean that Lin Yi's idea will work? Yes, it's the only way to save Li Delay. Li Delay will have to suffer a little, but it's not a problem to keep his life, Yao Wang said. Is it possible that Lin Yi purposely used this cruel method because he had other methods? Sihua was suspicious. From his point of view, Lin Yi wouldn't say anything good. He would only say something bad. I don't think so. After all, it'll take a lot of effort to take back the true qi. Even if Lin Yi could do it, he wouldn't lower his strength for 3 million. Yao Wang shook his head. I'm afraid that Lin Yi hasn't fully recovered yet. He's only slightly stronger than Mr. Zhu. He won't risk his life to treat Li Delay. Even 300 million is impossible, let alone 3 million. Sihua felt much better after listening to Yao Wang's explanation. Since there was a solution, let's do it as soon as possible, Yushu laughed out loud after listening to Lin Yi and Sihua's solution. She felt that she and Shield Bro were fated to be together. They were both evil and didn't even blink when messing with people. Li Delay would probably be riddled with holes now. Meng Yao and Tang Yin also felt that it was satisfying. As long as he didn't kill anyone, it was fine to punish Li Delay. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the night market. When he stopped, he saw a few modified sports cars like Hyundai and Geely Jaguar. Lin Yi paused. It should be the people he met last time. Xiao Xiao was there, but now, a familiar figure was missing. He didn't know what Xiao Xiao was doing in Yanjing. Why wasn't she back yet? When Xiao Xiao was here, Lin Yi was a bit annoyed by her, but now that she was gone, he would miss her without a desk mate. He even promised her that he would treat her to a meal. Those people didn't pay much attention to Lin Yi's Beetle. It wasn't a sports car, and they weren't interested in racing with Lin Yi. Evidently, they had forgotten about Lin Yi. Lin Yi and Tang Yin walked at the back, while the Miss and Yushu walked in front. The four of them entered the night market. Meng Yao and Yushu had never bought anything from the street stalls of the night market before. They'd always go straight for the street food when they came here before, and they'd never stopped here before. It was quite a sight to behold, and it was quite a bustling place. The clothes here are so pretty. It's the same as the latest designs from Hong Kong and Taiwan. They can't even be sold in the shops. Yushu looked at the clothes curiously. They're all imitations. The quality is way worse. The price is only 1/10 or even 1/100th of the original. Tang Yin saw that Yushu was excited as if she had found a treasure. She was afraid that Yushu would be tricked.
I see.
Yao, why don't we buy two? Even if it's street stalls, people will think that we're buying the real thing. Yushu said. Tang Yin couldn't help but sigh. It was true. Even if Meng Yao and Yushu wore 10 Kuai street stalls, no one would believe them. But even if she wore the real thing, people would think that it was an imitation, right? Let's take a look then. Meng Yao was a little tempted. After all, many of the styles were new. The four came to a street stall that seemed to be of good quality. Tang Yun chose a pair of shorts for herself. Meng Yao and Yushu each chose a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. They asked for the price. It was 300 Kuai. The Miss and Yushu didn't know how much it was worth. Tang Yin didn't know how to bargain, so the job was left to Lin Yi. Is it cheaper? Lin Yi asked the owner. 208 is the lowest. The owner could see that Meng Yao and Yushu were rich, so he didn't lower the price too much. Chapter 720. The joy of haggling. The boss paused. He was about to say that he said 208, not 200, but Lin Yi's next words made the boss pause. 200 was still too expensive? Only 150? He raised his head and looked at Lin Yi. It didn't seem like he was joking. His heart tightened. Did he meet someone who knew the trade? The girls from before obviously didn't know the market. They didn't even ask for the price before choosing the goods. He thought that he had met a fat sheep, but the person who was paying was behind him. 150 won't do. 180. 170. The boss wanted to say 180, but he didn't want others to hear it as 100 and lose money for nothing. He quickly changed it to 170. In fact, he could sell it for 170, but the profit would be a little less. He thought that he could make a lot of money, but it turned out to be less than what he earned normally. The gap was too big, and he couldn't accept it. 150 was close to the capital, so it didn't matter whether he sold it or not. 150 it is. I used to sell this kind of thing. Lin Yi said, and pointed to a person selling clothes not far away. Brother, do you see that? I used to set up a stall with him at Xiaonan. As Lin Yi spoke, the man who set up the stall raised his head and saw Lin Yi. He was stunned for a moment before recognizing Lin Yi. Brother, you're here again? Did your wife give birth yet? Not yet, I'm just taking a stroll. Lin Yi smiled. Then go on with your business. I have someone else here. I can't talk to you anymore. The man nodded to Lin Yi and went back to his stall. Lin Yi's conversation with the stall owner stunned the shopkeeper. He didn't expect Lin Yi to have been in this line of work before. All right, since we're in the same line of work, you should know the purchase price. Though 150 is the purchase price, I don't earn much from it. How about you add 10 more to it? 160? Okay. Lin Yi nodded and took out his wallet to pay the bill. Meng Yao and Yushu suddenly realized that haggling prices was a very fun thing to do. Back in a mall, other than getting discounts with VIP cards, they'd never had the pleasure of haggling prices before. Seeing Lin Yi haggle, the two followed suit and started haggling at the next few stalls. They weren't able to get the lowest price for everything, but what surprised Lin Yi was that with Yushu's help, many of the items were sold at prices lower than Lin Yi had expected. However, they enjoyed the joy of bargaining and bought a bunch of useless things. For example, they bought more than 10 hair clips. They couldn't use them all, so they gave a few to Tang Yun. Tang Yun didn't want it at first, but Lin Yi nodded, indicating that she could accept it, so she accepted it. However, he still felt a little embarrassed. Yao Yao sis, look over there. Doesn't it look fun? Yushu pointed at a spot not too far away. Meng Yao raised her head and saw a group of people throwing sandbags. It seems like a game, throwing things with sandbags and you get what you hit. This kind of game was often seen in movies. Usually the good stuff would be placed at the back and it wouldn't be easy to get it. Let's go and see? Yushu was interested. Don't go, it's all a scam. Those things at the back are all rigged. My mother and I have been setting up a stall in the night market for more than a year, and we have never seen anyone win the big prize at the back. Only those small things at the front can be won, and they are not worth much at all. No way? Is it their skills? Yushu saw that there were a lot of people playing, and it didn't seem like rigging. I'm just guessing. Maybe they're just unlucky. Tang Yin saw that Yushu wasn't listening, so she couldn't do anything. My luck is super good, I'll go and see. Yushu pulled Meng Yao and ran towards the stall. They don't usually come to this kind of place, do they? Tang Yin shook her head helplessly. I don't think they've played here before. Linny sighed. The miss is actually quite pitiful. Other than Shu, she doesn't have many friends, and their lives are very fixed. The places they go to are also very fixed, and they rarely try new things. You know her quite well? Tang Yun heard Lin Yi mention Meng Yao, and she felt a little uncomfortable.
Huh?
Lin Yi shrugged. The miss probably doesn't have that kind of thoughts towards me. The reason why she's mad at you is because of her pride.
Oh.
Tang Yun paused. This was the first time Lin Yi talked about this directly. You'll know when you get to know her more. Lin Yi said, the miss is actually a very lonely person, and she doesn't accept anyone easily. Once she accepts someone, she doesn't want to lose them easily. Am I her friend now? Anyway, I'm more pleasing to the eye than most people. Tang Yi nodded. Everyone had their own difficulties, and if what Lin Yi said was true, that Meng Yao looked like she lived in a rich family, but there wasn't much fun to be had. Haggling at the night market was a source of entertainment for her, and it was obvious how monotonous her life was. She wouldn't be like those rich kids on the internet, racing cars, flaunting their wealth, or doing something exciting, would she? Won't you know once you see it? Lin Yi shrugged. They don't even like to drive cars, and they always let me be the driver. Why would they like to race? As for showing off their wealth, do you think they're different from you? Tang Yun shook her head. It did seem to be the case. Unconsciously, Tang Yun's impression of Meng Yao and Yushu improved a lot. Let's not talk about this, let's go and see. Lin Yi pointed at Yushu, who was already playing with a sandbag. She went to play after all. 10 kwai is like a waste of water. Although Tang Yun's family changed drastically because of Lin Yi's intervention, and they weren't as poor as they used to be, Tang Yun didn't have the habit of being extravagant. She was still careful with her money, and she didn't spend a single cent more than she should. 10 kwai for 10 sandbags, and Yushu finished throwing them in no time. Other than a pen holder, she didn't get anything else. Lin Yi looked at the pen holder. It was sold for 3 kwai at the wholesale market, and Yushu had lost 7 kwai in just a short time. Of course, it wasn't much to her. Meng Yao was slower, and she only threw 3 sandbags, but she already hit a bracelet. Yao Yao sis, I'll help you. Yushu went to Meng Yao after she lost her sandbag. Chapter 7:21. Oh, right away. Yushu threw a few more sandbags, but they all missed. The last one, however, landed on the biggest big wolf plushie in the last row. Oh yeah. I hit the jackpot. Yushu cheered, but she realized that the big wolf plushie only shook a little, but didn't fall to the ground. Instead, it stood firmly on the shelf. What a shame, little girl, you almost hit the jackpot. This big wolf plushie is the real deal. It's different from those fakes. The owner looked at Yushu regretfully. You're too weak. Use more strength next time. Impossible. I used a lot of strength. I can even kill a shark. How come I can't even throw a plushie? Yushu suddenly remembered Tang Yun's words and glared at the owner. Hey, did you do something to it? How is that possible? Don't talk nonsense, little girl. I've been doing business here for years, and I've never cheated anyone. Last month, someone even hit the jackpot. Ask these regular customers. I put a SpongeBob plushie here last month, and this month it's a big wolf plushie. The owner said quickly. When the people around heard the boss's words, they all nodded in agreement. Last month, it wasn't the big wolf plushie that was placed here. It was a SpongeBob SquarePants plushie. If it wasn't beaten up, how could it be replaced with a big wolf plushie? Then I'll try again. Yushu wasn't satisfied and spent another 10 kwai to buy 10 more sandbags. There's definitely something wrong. Tang Yun whispered to Lin Yi. Yeah, I can see that too, but it's rare that they're willing to play. They're always cooped up at home. It's rare for them to have fun like this.
Lin Yi said.
Yushu threw 4 or 5 sandbags, and although she got a fishman plushie, it was too small to be worth much. It was the 6th sandbag, and Yushu was lucky once more as she threw the big wolf plus, but it was the same as last time. It wobbled a couple of times before standing firmly in place. The owner didn't expect Yushu to be this lucky, either, and hit the big wolf plus. He was put in a spot. If she didn't use enough strength the first time, was she going to use enough strength the second time? It's a little far-fetched, isn't it? However, the boss was an experienced swindler after all. He lied without blinking an eye. I still don't have enough strength. Looks like you've used all your strength, but the distance is too far. I suggest you choose the smaller, medium-sized dolls in front of you. Yushu gritted her teeth in anger. She turned around and looked at Lin Yi. Shield bro, come and help Shu. I want that big wolf plushie. Oh, then I'll try. Lin Yi also suspected that there was something wrong with the big wolf doll, so he didn't refuse. The boss could wait to get someone else to hit it. Yushu's luck was too good. She hit it twice in a row. If she couldn't hit it the third time, it would mean that there was something wrong. He quickly added, yeah, it's a young man, he's stronger. Huh. Don't tell me you only have one plushie? If I hit it, what about the others? Lin Yi thought that one plushie wasn't enough for everyone. At least one plushie for Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun. I'm a businessman. How could I only have one? There's more, go ahead and hit it. The boss thought to himself. I've seen a lot of people like you who aren't full of confidence. In the end, you still won't be able to hit anything.
All right,
Lin Yi said as he picked up a sandbag, tossing it out without even aiming. The boss looked at Lin Yi and couldn't help but look down on him. Was he trying to act cool? It'd be weird if he could hit it. Bang. The sandbag hit the big wolf plushie, right in the middle, knocking it to the ground.
Wah.
The boss looked at the scene in disbelief. Was there really a ghost? How did he hit it? And he even hit it? He put a layer of foam glue on the shelf, and it stuck to the bottom of the big wolf doll. Even if he hit it off, no one would notice because the foam glue was stuck to the shelf first. However, no one had ever hit it off before. Could it be that the foam glue lost its effectiveness after a long time? Or was it because the doll was hit by Yushu twice, and it loosened? Was that why it was hit by Lin Yi in one hit? The boss was heartbroken, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't go back on his words in front of so many people. Could he? However, in order to attract customers, the boss used genuine dolls. One doll was worth a few hundred yuan, and he really didn't want to give it away just like that. Every once in a while, the boss would find someone to help him and pretend to drop the first prize. In fact, it was his own relatives who would take turns to pretend to be players and take the first prize away. In reality, it was just returning to his own home. After a period of time, when people had forgotten about this doll, he would put it out in a new plastic bag and let people think that he had a new product. No one would suspect anything. But today, he failed. If he knew this was going to happen, he would have pretended to check it and strengthened the foam glue. Congratulations, young man. You are the first player to knock down the first prize this month. Although the boss was heartbroken, there were so many people watching. If he went back on his word, how could he do business in the future? He might as well give the doll to Lin Yi and advertise his stall. Is there anyone else who wants to play? Maybe the next grand prize winner will be you. You have to act fast. There will be one soon. Lin Yi took the big wolf doll and gave it to Yushu. Oh, Shield bro, you're amazing. Yushu happily took the big wolf doll. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were a bit envious, but they didn't say anything. Yushu, on the other hand, said after being happy, "Shield bro, you can't be biased. You have to give one to your first wife and girlfriend too." Lin Yi wanted to continue, but Yushu's words put Lin Yi in a difficult position. If he continued, wouldn't he be admitting that Meng Yao was the first wife? Tang Yun being the girlfriend was fine. "Shu, don't talk nonsense." Meng Yao kicked Yushu and said to Lin Yi, "Just give one to Tang Yun. I don't want one." Chapter 722. Hit another one? The owner, who was rearranging the prizes, heard Lin Yi's words and couldn't help but find it funny. "Aren't you afraid of losing your tongue? One for each person? Do you think you're a sharpshooter? You got lucky last time, but this time, I'll add some foam glue. Let's see how you're going to continue." However, he only thought about it and couldn't say it out loud. When he turned around, his face was still full of smiles. "Haha, then I hope your dream comes true." The surrounding people saw Lin Yi's words and surrounded him curiously. They wanted to see if he was just bragging or if he had some skills. Lin Yi picked up another sandbag and threw it out casually. He didn't aim, he didn't even use his full strength. The crowd was disappointed, but the owner was secretly delighted. They thought that Lin Yi had already gotten the first prize and that the following sandbags would be considered as giving up, but something unexpected happened. Bang! Once again, it hit the Pleasant Goat plushie that the owner had just placed. Pleasant Goat didn't even shake and was directly hit by the sandbag that Lin Yi threw out. "Ah!" The owner let out a cry of despair, but it was instantly drowned out by the cheers of the surrounding crowd. "Amazing! He hit it again. This is amazing." "Owner, I want to play too. Give me a 10 yuan one." "I want a 20 yuan one." "I don't believe that I, Li Tianju, who is known as the unbeatable lucky star, can't lose to him." The owner painfully gave the Pleasant Goat plushie to Lin Yi, but he let out a sigh of relief when he heard the excited voices of the crowd. Fortunately, the advertising effect was obvious, and it brought a lot of customers. Lin Yi took the plushie and gave it to Meng Yao. "Tang Yun?" The miss was a little embarrassed to accept it. Tang Yun was still here, and Meng Yao felt that she shouldn't take the plushie first. Yushu already took one, and it wouldn't be good if she took another. "Oh, there's still one sandbag left. I'll give her another one," Lin Yi said as he weighed the last sandbag. The boss, who was displaying the dolls, almost fainted when he heard Lin Yi's words. "You still want to fight one? Then wouldn't he still have to pay to death? Would he still be able to do business?" However, he couldn't stop Lin Yi from hitting. That way, he wouldn't be able to do business. When others missed, you were happy to take the money, but when you hit, you didn't want others to continue hitting. How could there be such logic? Therefore, the boss could only grit his teeth and pray that Lin Yi would not hit him. If he were to lose 3 dolls in a day, then all his hard work over the past few days would have been in vain. However, the reality would not go as he prayed. If his prayers were really useful, he would have become a millionaire long ago and would not have to set up a stall here.
Bang!
The last sandbag hit the biggest doll without any suspense. It was a little tanuki doll. The boss almost had a heart attack. He felt that he was going to faint. Fortunately, he knew that if he really fainted, then he would become a laughingstock. He could only endure the pain and pass the little tanuki doll to Lin Yi and congratulate him. "Young man, you're really good. 3 consecutive championships." "Oh, it's all right," Lin Yi said faintly as he took the little tanuki doll and passed it to Tang Yun. "This is for you." Compared to Shi Yangyang and Big Big Wolf, Tang Yun liked little tanuki more. Seeing that Lin Yi gave her little tanuki, she couldn't help but be happy. "Thank you." "Oh, Shield bro, you're so good. Do you want to buy another 10 yuan? Yushu saw the boss's forced smile and asked with a smirk. "Okay, Shu, let's go look at other things and give the opportunity to others," Chu Mengyao said. Mengyao knew when to stop. It wasn't easy to run a small business like this, and these dolls cost more than 1,000 kuai. The boss must have been heartbroken. However, Chu Mengyao wouldn't give him any compensation. Business was like this. There were losses and there were profits. Her daddy didn't always make money. Lin Yi didn't have the intention to continue throwing sandbags. He left the sandbag throwing stall with Chu Mengyao, Yushu, and Tang Yun. The boss finally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that standing by the river would always get one's shoes wet. His foam glue wasn't safe either. But if he lost money, then so be it. Didn't he attract so many people? The boss didn't believe that there would be people as strong as Lin Yi. Wouldn't he earn it back? As expected, with Lin Yi's example, the boss got a blessing in disguise. More and more people came to throw sandbags. In a blink of an eye, the boss had a few hundred yuan in his account. What he gave out was only a few dozen yuan. This made the boss smile from ear to ear again. However, it was too early for him to be happy. Not long after Lin Yi left, another young man hit the first prize, the biggest stall. He just didn't hit it. The young man was obviously unhappy. I hit it too. Why didn't it drop? Your hand strength isn't good. That young man just now has strong hand strength. The boss thought. How could he let you hit it every time?
How could I do business then?
My hand strength is weak. I'm a fitness coach at XX Fitness Center. Why don't I believe that my hand strength is stronger than that pretty boy just now? The young man widened his eyes in disbelief and said, Did you do something to it? What can I do? That person just now got 3 first prizes. Everyone saw it. The boss said with a guilty conscience. Yeah. Why did he hit 3? I know. He must have been hired by you. You deliberately let us see that he won a prize to attract us to spend money, right? The young man questioned. Impossible. I don't even know them. The boss was confident this time. He really didn't know Lin Yi and the others. If that's the case, then let me check the doll to see if there's any problem. The young man still didn't believe it. He pushed the boss away and walked to the shelf where he put things. You can't just come in. The boss quickly stopped him, but how could he be the opponent of the young man, the fitness coach? He quickly pushed it to the side. The young man tried to grab the biggest doll, but he couldn't grab it. He was suddenly stunned. He tried to grab it again, but he saw a lot of foam glue on the shelf below the doll. After the young man saw it, he sneered. Great? Is this how you lie? It's all foam glue below. No matter how strong a person's hand strength is, it's impossible to move the foam glue from so far away. Aren't you lying? Chapter 723. Business to discuss. Who are you trying to fool? You definitely didn't stick it on. The young man, naturally, didn't believe the boss' words. If the boss was able to trick people with so much foam glue, how could he possibly believe his words? I really did. The boss's heart went cold. He was exposed just like that? How could he do business in the future? I don't care if you stuck it on or not. Refund me. I've spent 30 kwai here already. The young man was getting impatient. He didn't want to listen to the boss's explanation anymore. All right, I'll refund it right now. The boss wanted to keep the peace. After all, he was no match for the fitness trainer. We want a refund too. Hurry up and give me a refund. I was playing here yesterday. Me too. I played here the day before yesterday. I played here half a year ago. I'll refund it too. The boss fainted on the ground, foaming at the mouth. His money box was emptied, and those who didn't get any money went to his dolls and gifts. In an instant, there was nothing left of the stall. When the boss woke up, he realized that he had nothing left. However, who could be blamed for this? It was his fault for being dishonest in business. Lin Yi, naturally, didn't know that the boss was so unlucky after he left, but Lin Yi wouldn't care even if he knew. What did it have to do with Lin Yi? At that moment, Lin Yi was already in front of the mushroom stall with the miss and shoe. This isn't healthy, it's best not to eat it. Tang Yin couldn't help but remind the two girls when she saw how excited they were. You guys can make it at home if you want. That's right, Shield Bro. Do you know how to make mushrooms?
Yushu thought about it.
The things outside weren't clean, after all. Who knew if it was some unwashed mushrooms or gutter oil?
Probably.
Lin Yi only needed to watch the owner do it once to learn it. Then you can make it for us from now on. We won't come out to eat. Yushu was overjoyed. She could finally eat delicious fried mushrooms at home. Tang Yin rubbed her forehead, a little annoyed. She was looking for trouble for no reason. She was causing trouble for Lin Yi. Yushu wasn't in the mood to eat anymore now that she knew that Lin Yi knew how to fry mushrooms. She wouldn't have to stuff herself to death if she could eat mushrooms every day. After eating the mushrooms, Lin Yi saw that it was about time to send Tang Yun back to the hospital. With the Miss and Yushu there, Lin Yi couldn't do anything with Tang Yun. It was a bit awkward with 4 people together. Tang Yun had the same idea as Lin Yi and agreed to Lin Yi's suggestion. Both Meng Yao and Yushu were with Lin Yi, after all, and they'd gotten a lot out of it. They didn't want to keep strolling around. They had school tomorrow, and they wouldn't be able to wake up if they stayed up too late. Yu Tian and Ling Shan left Zhang Wen's room. Ling Shan frowned. This friend of yours is a bit weird. There seems to be a reason why his kidney was cut off. I haven't been in contact with him for years. If I didn't come back for business this time, I wouldn't have contacted him. Yu Tian shook his head, but house and strength hasn't been weak these years. They're slowly becoming the strongest among the 5 small houses. They're just doing some dirty tricks to get rich. I'll deal with them sooner or later. Ling Shan said faintly. Haha, let's have a meal together. Do you have time? Yu Tian asked Ling Shan after leaving the hospital. Nope, there's a lot of cases.
I don't want to waste time.
Ling Shan rejected directly. Plus, I'm wearing the uniform. I need to change. It's too troublesome. Actually, I have some business to discuss with you. Yu Tian was full of confidence this time. He came to Songshan for a secret mission, but there was a part where he needed to cooperate with the local police. After asking for permission from his superiors, he decided to contact Ling Shan. But, according to the procedure, Yu Tian had to contact the local police chief first. But Yu Tian had already told Huaijun about it, and Ling Shan was the captain of the Criminal Investigation Department. She was in charge of this, so it was a valid reason. Business? Ling Shan paused. If it's business, let's talk in my office. Forget about the meal. It's probably dinner time now. We can't talk about business on an empty stomach, can we? Yu Tian smiled bitterly. All right, let's have some fast food then. Ling Shan said faintly, there's a cafeteria in the hospital. All right. Yu Tian didn't have a choice. Fast food, at least they could eat together. The only problem was that it wasn't romantic at all. The two arrived at the hospital cafeteria. Ling Shan was wearing a police uniform, and Yu Tian was also wearing an armed police uniform, but no one noticed them. Most of the police officers were stationed in the hospital these days, and it was normal for them to eat in the cafeteria. Yu Tian wanted to go to the private room and order some dishes, but Ling Shan bought 2 fast foods straight away. Yu Tian couldn't say anything, and he could only smile bitterly. What's the matter?
Just say it.
Ling Shan found a quiet corner and placed the food on the table. She looked at Yu Tian. If you're looking for me for business, you should contact my director first. I've already told Huaijun. Yu Tian, naturally, wouldn't give Ling Shan an excuse to reject him. All right, Lieutenant Chen. Is there anything we can help with? Ling Shan nodded. Yu Tian didn't know what to do with Ling Shan's tone. Couldn't Ling Shan talk to him like a friend? We discovered an artifact smuggling group when we were patrolling the border. They had a fierce fight with us when we were crossing the border. The leader is the famous husband and wife thief in the black market. Chen Yutian briefly explained the cause of the incident. You should be working with a local police and relics department, not Songshan's police, right? Ling Shan, naturally, had heard of the couple before. They were a famous group of grave robbers, and the leader was a man and a woman. In fact, the arrest warrant for the burglar couple had already been issued, but no one knew the true faces of the burglar couple. These 2 people always wore masks, so no one knew their true identities. Chapter 724. Of course. Let's eat first. We'll go to my office later. Ling Shan nodded, interrupting Yu Tian. They were in a corner of the cafeteria, and no one was paying attention to them. Ling Shan still didn't want to talk about work in public. Chen Yutian nodded and quickly finished the food in front of him. Ling Shan didn't say anything during the meal, and Yutian wanted to find a topic unrelated to work. You know Lin Yi?
What are you trying to say?
Ling Shan frowned. You seem to be close with him? He seems to be very strong? Yutian probed. Stronger than you. Ling Shan said mercilessly. Of course. Chun Yutian nodded in agreement. Ling Shan didn't know what to say. She thought Yutian wouldn't be happy, but he said of course. Ling Shan couldn't help but shake her head. Wasn't this Yutian too soft? With a personality like his, he'd never be strong. But Ling Shan didn't know the reason. If it were someone else, Yutian might not be happy, but in front of Lin Yi, all he felt was respect. Yutian saw that Ling Shan didn't seem to want to talk to him, so he stopped talking and quickly finished his food. Ling Shan was from the Special Forces, too, so she didn't hesitate when eating, not slower than Yutian. After the meal, the two went to the parking lot. Yutian drove an Audi A6 with an armed police license, a typical official car. Ling Shan, on the other hand, was in a civilian Cheetah. The two cars left the hospital and went straight to the police station. In Ling Shan's office, Ling Shan poured Yutian a glass of water, and the two sat on the sofa facing each other. Major Chun, you can continue.
All right.
Yutian nodded. He was no longer the cowardly guy he used to be when talking about work, and Ling Shan liked him a little. We found the couple's work notes, and in it, they recorded the time of their next crime. The location was a tomb near Songshan. Oh, there's a tomb near Songshan? Ling Shan paused. She'd never heard of any dynasty building a capital around here, and logically speaking, even if there were tombs here, they'd all belong to commoners. Grave robbers wouldn't even bother with them. I'm not sure, because the notebook didn't mention the exact location of the tomb. It only mentioned that we have to go to Songshan first, so it should be around here, Chen Yutian said. You want to find this tomb? I don't think you guys are in charge of this, right? Ling Shan didn't understand why Yutian was looking for a tomb. This tomb was discovered by 3 groups of grave robbers, one of which was the couple.
Chun Yutian said.
You're saying that you want to take them all out? Ling Shan wasn't stupid.
She knew what Yutian was getting at.
That's right. Chun Yutian nodded. First, we want to catch them all, and second, we want to use their abilities to explore the tomb. The tomb that these people have their eyes on must be extraordinary. Having them explore the path first will also provide our archaeologists with information and convenience. What do you need our help with? Ling Shan understood what Yutian meant. This mission was a bit dangerous. Not only did they have to catch the grave robbers, but they also had to explore the tomb with them. According to the couple's notebook, when they first explored the tomb, they found it to be extremely dangerous. But the more dangerous a tomb is, the more treasures there are, and so they didn't want to give up. They didn't have the confidence to enter, Chen Yutian said, so they contacted a famous archaeologist in the country, Lu Bujia. Lu Bujia? Ling Shan paused when she heard the name. You're talking about our Songshan's Lu Bujia? The freelance explorer Lu Bujia? That's right. That's him. Yutian nodded and continued. Lu Bujia is a freelance explorer in name, a special reporter and writer for many magazines, but in reality, he has connections with the grave robbers. Lu Bujia's family was attacked by a psycho murderer a while ago. You know about this too? Ling Shan realized. You're looking for us because of this Lu Bujia? That's right. Lu Bujia has always been in the hands of the Songshan police. If we want to find the tomb, we have to start with Lu Bujia. Only he knows the location of the tomb. Chun Yutian said, those grave robbers, including the couple, found Lu Bujia and wanted to use him to enter the tomb. However, Lu Bujia gave up on working with them after a precise investigation. He said that the tomb was too dangerous, so he chose to withdraw from the mission. But they were afraid that Lu Bujia would leak the information, or that he would take the treasure after they gave up, so they chose to kill him. So that's how it is. No wonder Lu Bujia didn't want to cooperate with the police. He must know the reason why he was attacked, but if he told the truth, he'd be dragged into the mess as well. His crime wouldn't be light either. Ling Shan finally understood what Bujia was worried about. He was a tomb raider in the dark. Did Lu Bujia leave any statement or message? Chen Yutian asked. No, he didn't want to cooperate with us. We didn't think too much about it at first, but we didn't know that there was such a big secret behind it. Ling Shan shook her head, feeling regretful. She would have protected Lu Bujia, no matter. What if she knew this would happen? How's Lu Bujia's condition now? I heard from Huaijuan that he's not doing well. Yutian sighed. All the clues were focused on Lu Bujia. If something really happened to him, where would they find the tomb with so many mountains and rivers around Songshan? He hasn't woken up yet. He's being kept alive by the ventilator. Lingshan suddenly thought of Lin Yi. Didn't that guy promise to treat Lu Bujia? Why was there no news? He couldn't have forgotten about it, could he? From the looks of it, it was very possible. Lingshan had been troubled by the kidney trafficking company's case recently, so she temporarily put Lu Bujia's matter aside. She didn't ask Linny about it, but Linny acted as if it didn't matter at all. Chapter 725. Make him give up. Things are getting complicated now. Yutian frowned. What did the doctor say? The doctor can't do anything for sure. Lingshan shook her head. Yutian wasn't an idiot. He could tell from Lingshan's words that the doctor couldn't do anything, but from Lingshan's tone, it seemed like someone else had a way. He asked, surprised, Lingshan, there's another way? Call me Song Lingshan or Officer Song. Lingshan wasn't happy with the way Yutian addressed her. How dare he call her Lingshan? All right, Lingshan. Do you have another way? Yutian said helplessly. I don't, but someone else does. Lingshan got a headache thinking about Lin Yi. Was she supposed to ask Lin Yi for Yutian's case? It was fine if it was for herself, but for Yutian, man, favors were things that were hard to come by. Acting like Miss Braindead and Miss Dumbass wasn't something new anymore. What if Lin Yi got annoyed? But for business and personal reasons, Lingshan couldn't just ignore it. Officially, he had a part in this case as well. After all, the armed police cooperated with the local police. Privately, he didn't care about his relationship with Chen Yutian. Solving this case would be a great achievement for him. Although it was a joint operation, no one could take the credit away from the local police. Is it troublesome? Yutian asked carefully. It's all right. Let me make a call. Lingshan sighed. It seemed like she had to call Lin Yi herself and let Yutian talk to his sister and Lin Yi. Maybe that would work, but it didn't seem reliable. She was the one who asked Lin Yi for help first, and if she let Yutian get involved now, Lin Yi might think that she was using Yutian to pressure him. Okay. Yutian nodded. Lingshan called Lin Yi, feeling a little uneasy. She regretted calling him in front of Yutian. What if Lin Yi didn't agree? Wouldn't she have to act coquettishly? It wouldn't be good if Chen Yutian heard this. She had always been a strong girl. She had never behaved like this since she was young. If word of this got out, she would lose a lot of face. But before she could think about it, Lin Yi picked up the phone. Lin Yi was on the way back to the hospital. Hello. I'm Lingshan. You promised me that you'd treat Lu Bujia. How's it going? Lingshan asked carefully. Who is Lu Bujia? Lingshan's guess was right. Lin Yi had forgotten about Lu Bujia a long time ago, and Lingshan didn't bring it up either. Why would he have the time to remember things like that? It's the one in the hospital, the one who got hurt by that crazy murderer. Lingshan explained. That person? It won't be easy to save him. Let's leave it at that. I still have things to do here. Lin Yi hung up the phone. Lin Yi had arrived at the hospital and parked his car. He had to say goodbye to Tang Yun. He didn't have the confidence to save Bujia before because the guy was too heavily injured, but after what happened to Xiao Xiao and Meng Yao, as well as his own injuries, he realized that the energy within his body could quickly heal his own and other people's injuries. Lu Bujia's injuries were too severe, and it would consume most of Lin Yi's energy. Lin Yi didn't need to drop a level for him. Although he could recover in one night, this person wasn't related to him at all. Why would Lin Yi waste his energy to save him? Lingshan was a little annoyed that Lin Yi hung up on her, but she got some information from Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi said that it wasn't easy to save him. Not impossible. Did that mean there was hope? Lingshan hesitated and called Lin Yi again. Yutian, on the other hand, didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Normally, powerful people had a temper. Asking them for help wasn't something that could be done with just a phone call. Lin Yi sent Tang Yin off and didn't expect Lingshan to call him again. Lin Yi didn't go back to the car and picked up the call. Is there anything else? Good man. Please help me. Lingshan suddenly remembered that Yutian was right beside her. She was a little worried, but thinking about it, she decided to use this chance to make Yutian give up. With someone stronger than him as a comparison, Yutian wouldn't bother her anymore. It would solve a big problem. With that thought, Lingshan calmed down. Miss Dummy needs your help. Can you save him for me? At most, I'll repay you and cook for you? Yutian's eyes widened in shock. This was Lingshan? Was he seeing things? Since when did Lingshan become like this? If it weren't for the fact that the person in front of him was Lingshan, Yutian would have thought that it was a girl acting cute to her boyfriend just from the voice alone. How is this possible? Yutian rubbed his eyes. He couldn't believe it. Lingshan had always been a strong person. How did she become like this? Could it be that the person on the phone was a girl? But it didn't seem like it. Lingshan's tone sounded like she was talking to a man, and she even called herself Miss Dummy. Yutian's heart almost exploded when he heard that. Lingshan calling herself Miss Dummy? Wasn't this too surprising? This title. It was obviously a term of endearment between lovers. Lin Yi was speechless at Lingshan's begging, but his heart softened. All right, I'll go take a look tomorrow when I'm free. That's great. Thank you so much. Lingshan said, trying to sound as sweet and coy as she could. You're welcome. All right, I'll be hanging up. Lin Yi hung up and went back to the car. Lingshan let out a long sigh of relief. Okay, done. This move worked every time. Lin Yi gave in as soon as she acted cute. It wasn't bad at all. Lingshan was feeling pleased with herself when she remembered that Yutian was still sitting in front of her. Her face froze. Lingshan, you? Yutian looked at Lingshan in disbelief.
What?
Is there a problem? Lingshan decided to attack Yutian a little, and her expression became more natural. Just now. The person you called. Yutian couldn't help but ask. That's my personal business, Lingshan said faintly. It has nothing to do with the case, right? That. Of course not. Yutian smiled bitterly, his face a little disappointed. Lingshan had a boyfriend. Chapter 726. Lingshan's boyfriend? Lingshan had gone through so much trouble to beg Lin Yi, and naturally, she wouldn't just let someone else take the credit for nothing. If this tomb robbery case was solved smoothly, it'd be a huge achievement for her as well. Of course, Yutian, on the other hand, wanted to do the mission with Lingshan, but Lingshan's phone call made him hesitant. Since there's nothing else, can Major Chen leave now? Lingshan looked at Yutian. Can I ask something personal after the business? Yutian didn't want to give up. What personal? Lingshan knew what Yutian wanted to ask, but she said, but you can ask, and I can choose not to answer.
Huh?
It's like this, the person you called, is he your boyfriend? Yutian decided to give up. Not yet, but I'm going after him. Lingshan said after some thought. You are going after him? Yutian's eyes went wide. What, can't I? Lingshan laughed in her heart. You should give up now, right? It's not that I can't, it's just a little weird. Yutian shook his head. You didn't sound like you when you called. Is he a doctor? I guess so. Lingshan said the truth. Lin Yi wasn't a professional doctor. At most half one. Guess so? Yutian paused, not understanding what she meant. Didn't you say that you'd find a man stronger than you? He's a doctor. How can he be stronger than you? Yutian wasn't convinced. Lingshan wasn't trying to trick him. Was she? She said she'd find a man stronger than her. Why did she find a doctor as her boyfriend? Stronger than me? Who told you doctors can't be stronger than me? Lingshan frowned. Your logic is problematic, and he's not a doctor either.
He's just a guest.
Guest? Yutian smiled bitterly. Does that mean I don't have a chance? You never had one, Lingshan said without hesitation. First, I don't like men like you. Secondly, I've already broken through to the late phase of the golden class. Do you think you can surpass me? Late phase of the golden class. Yutian took a deep breath. How many days had it been? Lingshan had just touched the barrier of late phase golden class a few days ago, and now she was already late phase golden class? This kind of terrifying leveling speed was rare even among the aristocratic families. You don't believe me? Lingshan's cheek gathered together, and the aura she released made Yu Tian's heart skip a beat. Golden class late phase after all, I do. Yu Tian sighed. But your friend is stronger than you? He helped me break through. Lingshan couldn't help but blush as she remembered the scene in the basement that day. She felt her body heat up. She'd actually broken through under that kind of shameful situation. However, it made sense to say that Lin Yi helped him break through. After all, he was fantasizing about Lin Yi at that time. It seems like I really can't compare to him. Yu Qian basically gave up on Lingshan. Right, he's not an old man, is he? I don't think there's anyone stronger than you in the younger generation, right? Grandpa Song wouldn't agree to you finding a husband with a huge age gap, would he? This was Yu Tian's only hope. No, Lingshan said faintly. If you want to know, you'll see it in the hospital tomorrow. Lingshan didn't say Lin Yi's name directly, keeping it a secret. It was better to keep this a secret. All right. Yu Tian sighed in disappointment. Mrs. Tang was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling as she held the bank statement. She had never seen so much money in her life. 3 million, a whole 3 million. Plus the 500,000 from before, there was a total of 3,500,000. Did she become a legendary millionaire? Old Tang, look at this account book. Are there 4 zeros on it? It's 35 in front, 7 digits in total? Mrs. Tang held the account book and asked Jucheng. It's 3,500,000. You've shown it to me more than 10 times. Tang Jucheng, on the other hand, was indifferent. Too many things had happened in the house recently, but ever since Lin Yi came, the house was getting better and better. Your broken leg is worth it, Mrs. Tang joked. Forget it. Tang Jucheng laughed self-deprecatingly. My leg? It's not worth a cent in their eyes, right? It's not like they didn't break it before. I've been lying in bed for so many years, and now I want a cent? If it wasn't for Lin Yi, they wouldn't even give me 30,000, let alone 3 million. I'm just joking. Mrs. Tang knew as well. She didn't know how Lin Yi got the money, but Lin Yi was capable. He broke the leg of the CEO of Qibing Real Estate, and they still had to pay him money. Mrs. Tang and Jucheng were talking when Tang Yin pushed the door open. She saw the smiles on her parents' faces and couldn't help but feel strange. Dad, Mom, what are you talking about? Why are you so happy? Aren't we talking about the 3 million? Lil Yi is amazing. He got 3 million just like that? Mrs. Tang waved the bank card and account book in her hand happily. Tell me, how did you get it? It's nothing. Lin Yi beat up Li Dile, the brother of Li Qibing's underling. Then, Li Dile came to ask for mercy, and Lin Yi asked him for 3 million for Dad's medical fees. Tang Yun briefly explained the process. She didn't want her mother to worry about the details.
Huh?
Mrs. Tang and Jucheng's eyes widened at the same time.
How could that be?
You beat up someone's brother, and he still had to give you 3 million? Wasn't that too overbearing? However, the more overbearing Lin Yi was, the happier she was. This was the only way they wouldn't be bullied in the future. Hence, he said, originally, I was thinking of buying a house in a bad location tomorrow. If it's cheaper, I'll make do with it. Now that I have so much money, it's enough to buy any house. Then let's buy a better one. Tang Yin knew that the money was about the same as what Lin Yi gave them. Lin Yi could have asked Li Zihua for 3 million, and the medical fees for her father was just an excuse for Lin Yi to give them money. Chapter 727. Chapter 727. House Chen's Crisis. Yin, what do you say we buy a retail house? If the district's big, we can open a barbecue shop. That'll be enough for us to eat and drink, right? Mrs. Tang asked. That's fine. You and Dad don't have anything to do anyways. We might as well start a business. Tang Yi nodded. 3 million, that's 100,000 in interest a year. What are you going to do to earn that? Jucheng was meticulous in his calculations, thinking that it'd be safer to keep the money in the bank. That's true. Mrs. Tang hesitated as well, not knowing what to do. Yin, your dad's right. If we keep the money in the bank, we'll get a lot of interest a year too.
That, I don't really understand.
Maybe we should ask Lenny tomorrow? Let's see what he says. Tang Yin had never seen so much money before. She didn't know how to manage money, and she didn't dare suggest anything. She'd ask Lin Yi tomorrow. The night passed peacefully, and he was woken up by Ling Shan's call the next morning. He looked at the time on his phone, but it was only 5:30, pissing him off. He'd been training in the Jade, and now he was interrupted like this. What's wrong with you? Why are you calling so early in the morning? Lin Yi roared into the phone. Ling Shan felt wronged. It was already 5:30, and it wasn't early anymore. It was important for practitioners to wake up early to train, and Ling Shan had always been like this for 20 years. Don't you need to wake up early to train?
Train my ass.
Lin Yi was a little troubled. Don't compare yourself to others. I've always been a person who wakes up naturally. Ugh, you're interested in my sister? Ling Shan blinked. I've never even seen her. What's there to be interested in? Lin Yi was speechless at Ling Shan's logic. Do you have something to do? Yeah, didn't you promise me to go to the hospital to see Lu Bujias? Ling Shan said carefully. I'm ready. Then wait for me at the hospital. Lin Yi yawned, remembering what Ling Shan said yesterday. I'll be there in a bit. Okay, you didn't have breakfast, right? Can you let little silly girl help you with something? Ling Shan was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't try his best, and even if he could cure her, he'd find it troublesome to lie to her and say that he couldn't cure her. So, Ling Shan was trying her best to please Lin Yi. Then do something, Lin Yi said before hanging up. Lin Yi was already used to Ling Shan's attentiveness. After getting up, Lin Yi found something in the kitchen and made a pot of lean meat porridge for Meng Yao and Yushu. He set the timer and left the house. Lin Yi agreed to buy a house with Tang Yun's family today, so he had to go to the hospital to deal with Lu Buijia as soon as possible. He didn't have time to wait for Kanji to eat breakfast at home. He drove the van to the Songshan's First People's Hospital, and Lin Yi called Ling Shan. You're here? Ling Shan was pleasantly surprised. She didn't think that Lin Yi would come so soon. It seemed that Lin Yi was quite considerate of her, not letting her lose face in front of Yu Tian. Yu Tian came to the hospital early this morning. He didn't sleep well the whole night. The fact that Ling Shan had an admirer made him very disappointed. He knew that he basically had no hope, and so he wanted to see how strong the man she liked was. Of course, he still had the right to challenge him. If he could surpass him one day. I'm here, in the parking lot of the hospital. Where are you? Lin Yi asked. I'm at the 3rd ward, the ICU on the top floor, room 2119, Ling Shan said. Okay, I'll go now. Lin Yi got off the car and walked to the 3rd ward. Yu Tian, who was beside Ling Shan, heard that the man she was after was coming, and he couldn't help but get nervous. Ling Shan, he's here? Almost there, Ling Shan nodded. She didn't like Yu Tian's nervousness. Why couldn't he be a little more manly? Even if she was stronger than him, there was no need to be this nervous, was there? Yu Tian nodded. He felt like a failure, pursuing Ling Shan for so many years, and it all ended in failure. But he chose the wrong direction from the start. He walked the path of a spoiled young master, and Ling Shan didn't like him at all. When he wanted to use his strength to surpass Ling Shan, he realized that he started too late. If it wasn't for the guidance of a famous teacher, he wouldn't even be able to break through golden class in this lifetime. Yu Tian was disappointed, but he didn't regret it. If it wasn't for Ling Shan's words, he wouldn't have gotten so excited, and he wouldn't have chosen this path. Although he wasn't the strongest out of all the noble houses, early phase golden class wasn't weak. At least his grandpa wasn't disappointed in him. He was the only male in the 3rd generation of House Chen, and Yushu couldn't possibly practice martial arts. If he didn't have strength, House Chen would probably be removed from the 4 noble houses by House Yu in a few years. So Yu Tian's sense of danger was quite strong. He was still young, and he didn't have to think so much when he was a spoiled young master, but now he had to. Other than the old man who used to be a famous person, there wasn't anyone in the 3rd generation of House Chen who could stand firm. When the old master was young, he practiced external techniques. The characteristics of external techniques were different from internal techniques. The older one was, the purer their internal energy would be. However, when an external technique was old, if one's body wasn't good, they would become weaker and weaker. Old Chen's body wasn't too good now, and although he was at his peak at the middle phase of mystic class, who knew how much strength he had left? Wu Gongao from House Wu had been jumping up and down these years, looking like he wanted to challenge Old Chen, but in reality, he just wanted to see how strong House Chen was. He wanted to see how much strength House Chen had left. After this period of time, it was time for some of the noble houses to be replaced. House Wu, naturally, wanted to get rid of House Chen, and then support a family that was on good terms with them. Didn't House Kong rely on House Wu recently? House Wu probably had this plan as well. So although House Chen looked good on the surface, as one of the 5 small noble houses and the 4 big houses, their position was actually in danger. Chen Yutian knew this very well, and so did Elder Chen. This was also why Old Chen supported Yutian's courtship with Lingshan. Once the Song and Qin families were united through marriage, then those people who were after House Chen wouldn't be as arrogant as they were now. Chapter 7:28. Breakfast with love. The only thing Yutian could do now was to get on the good side of other noble houses and get a strong ally for House Chen, but this kind of ally wasn't very dependable. After all, they weren't related by marriage, and once there was a conflict of interest, it would be easy for them to collapse. So Yutian could only rely on himself. If he could break through to Mystic before the old man passed away, then House Chen would be able to survive for at least 100 years. But was it possible to break through the Mystic class? Lingshan was the leader of this generation, but she'd only just entered Golden Class late phase. House Song, on the other hand, had a strong foundation. The old man of House Song was only Golden Class late phase peak, but the old lady was already a mystic mid-phase spiritual practitioner. In fact, House Song's spiritual arts were more suitable for women. Among the younger generation of House Song, Lingshan's brother was only early phase Golden Class, and Lingshan's sister was also early phase Golden Class. It was impossible for him to marry Lingshan, and Yutian wanted to see just how strong the person Lingshan was talking about was. If House Song managed to rope in such a strong person, then House Song might even be able to take on House Yu. Lin Yi came to the door and pushed it open. He paused when he saw Lingshan and Yutian standing in the guest room. Yutian was here too? Yutian's face froze when he saw that it was Lin Yi. Why was Instructor Eagle here? But then, Yutian thought it through. Could it be that the strong practitioner Lingshan was talking about was Lin Yi? Yutian made sense now. Among the younger generation, who else could have such strength other than Lin Yi? If Lin Yi could help him break through Golden Class, why couldn't he help Lingshan? But Yutian had always treated Lin Yi as a high and mighty instructor, and never treated him as someone of the same generation. In Yutian's eyes, Lin Yi was like a god. So, when Qin Yutian was thinking about the elites of the younger generation, he didn't even consider Lin Yi on the same level. Now that he saw Lin Yi, he realized that Lin Yi was younger than him. Naturally, he was the leader of the younger generation. Lin Yi didn't know what song Lingshan told Yutian, so Lin Yi didn't feel awkward when he saw Yutian. He nodded. Yutian bro, you're here too? Yutian smiled bitterly. I'm one of the people in charge of this case, so I'm here as well. Yutian smiled bitterly. I'm one of the people in charge of this case, so I'm here too. Chun Yutian didn't even have the intention to challenge Lin Yi. He wouldn't be able to surpass Lin Yi even if he had another 100 years. If Lingshan really did end up with Lin Yi, then it wouldn't be a bad ending at all, and House Song would rise again. No one knew Lin Yi's strength better than Yutian. He believed that Lingshan saw this too, and that was why she took the initiative to pursue Lin Yi. Otherwise, with Lingshan's strong personality, if the man wasn't so much stronger than her, why would she take the initiative to pursue him? She even cooked for him, and her tone was so gentle when she called him. Only Lin Yi had the right to do this. But suddenly, Qin Yutian froze as he remembered something. His sister seemed to have a special relationship with Lin Yi. She even said that she wanted to be his mistress. What was going on? Yutian didn't believe his sister's words. Yushu rarely spoke the truth, and no one could tell if she was lying or not. She was like this since she was young, but Yutian still went into deep thought. Could Ling Shan be his sister's competitor? But Yu Tian shook his head. His sister was only a 12th grader. Wasn't it too early to think about these things? You didn't have breakfast, right? Ling Shan took out a thermos and gave it to Lin Yi. I made breakfast for you. Have some first? Lin Yi nodded and took the thermos, opening it on the coffee table. Ling Shan's cooking skills, on the other hand, surprised Lin Yi. This tigress knew how to cook, and it looked like it was not bad. There were a few jujube cakes, 2 fried eggs, and some pickled vegetables in the thermos. It was obvious that it wasn't a ready-made product. Song Lingshan must have made it early in the morning. Lin Yi quickly finished the food in the thermos. It tasted good, and he praised, I didn't know that your cooking skills were not bad. You're not useless after all. The first part of the sentence made Lingshan extremely happy, but the second part almost made her explode from anger. What did he mean by she wasn't a good-for-nothing? Did she have no other ability other than cooking? She was a golden-class late-phase master now, and in Lin Yi's eyes, she was only good at cooking. But Song Lingshan didn't dare to say anything. She was afraid that she'd anger Lin Yi and drive him away. That would have wasted her breakfast, and the silly girl from yesterday would have gone down the drain. It'd be too late for regrets. She could only smile. You like it, so I always cook for you? As for other things, don't I have you to help me? You don't have to worry about it. We'll talk about it later. Let's take a look at that Lu Bujiao first. Lin Yi didn't reply to Ling Shan's word. Ever since that incident in the dungeon, their relationship had been weird. He didn't know what she was thinking, but Lin Yi was afraid that he wouldn't be able to resist the temptation if he were to reply. Of course, the temptation was small, but the trouble was big. If something really happened between him and Song Lingshan, it'd be endless. And let's take a look at the patient first. Lingshan was overjoyed. Lin Yi finally asked to see the patient. Yu Tian, on the other hand, was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. It was said that women would change for the man they liked, and it seemed to be true. Lingshan was like a completely different person. Lin Yi still had to accompany Tang Yan's family to buy a house later, so he didn't have much time. Naturally, he had to settle this as soon as possible. Lingshan and Yu Tian followed Lin Yi into the ICU, not daring to say anything. They only watched as Lin Yi examined Lu Bujiao's injuries. Chapter 729. Being brothers, Lin Yi wouldn't have cared about Bujiao's life if Miss Song didn't make it sound so nice. Lin Yi checked Bujiao's injuries again. It was the same as before, not getting any worse. But then again, it was good enough that he was able to use the ventilator until now. Lin Yi didn't say much and turned to Lingshan and Yu Tian. Get someone to take off his gown. I'm going to do the acupuncture. I'll do it. Yu Tian didn't decline and volunteered to take off Bujiao's gown. Lingshan was a girl and naturally couldn't do it, so she watched from afar. Lu Bujiao's hospital gown was loose, so Chen Yu Tian took it off easily. Lin Yi nodded and signaled Yu Tian to step back. He took out a box of silver needles. Lin Yi bought this last night. He used the previous box on Li Delay and it wasn't cheap. He had to get it back from Tsihua another day. The silver needles pierced into Bujiao's body. Lin Yi didn't want to heal him completely. He chose to use his own energy to heal the fatal injuries. To prevent Xiao Xiao from draining his energy dry, Lin Yi used the needles to seal a few of Bujiao's meridians. This way, he could selectively transfer energy to different parts of Bujiao's body. As for the other injuries, wasn't there a hospital? He could just lie in the room and slowly recover. Lin Yi transferred energy into Bujiao's body and healed the fatal injuries. Lin Yi breathed out in relief. Bujiao needed far less energy than Xiao Xiao, similar to the Mississippi. This way, he wouldn't need too much energy to heal all of Bujiao's injuries. However, Lin Yi didn't do so. Firstly, it would be too shocking. Secondly, Lin Yi didn't owe Lu Bujiao anything. It was good enough that he treated Lu Bujiao like this. In the words of the old man at home, a thief would not leave empty-handed. Even if he made a move, he had to be paid for it. He couldn't make a move for free, right? All right, he should wake up in the afternoon. Lin Yi removed the silver needles from Lu Bujiao's body. The entire process took less than 10 minutes. So simple. Lingshan watched as Lin Yi inserted a couple of needles and massaged Buja's body a couple of times. Just like that? If that was the case, then why was this fellow still making excuses in front of him? What was the meaning of this? To him, this was as easy as lifting a finger, but he tricked her into pretending to be a silly girl several times. Lin Yi rolled his eyes and said, "If you think it's easy, then why don't you do it? How much true qi did I lose to infuse into his body? If I had infused it into your body, you might have leveled up again." Lin Yi was just mocking Lingshan for not using her brain, but Lingshan felt conflicted after hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi was actually using true qi to treat Lu Bujia? Wasn't that too extravagant? Could it be that Lin Yi's true qi could be used by other people? Lingshan had only heard that one's own true qi could be used by other people, but she had never heard of other people's true qi having this effect. Plus, there was a condition for one's true qi to be used by other people. It had to be her future husband. Just like her grandpa, he was only golden class early phase when he was young. If it wasn't for her grandma, how could he have reached golden class late phase peak? Yet Lin Yi was using his qi on someone he didn't even know, and a normal person at that. Lingshan couldn't believe it. At the same time, her heart ached. Wouldn't it be great if she had the true qi? She didn't even know that she might have leveled up again. Silly girl, you're wrong, alright? Lingshan blushed as she held onto Lin Yi's hand. Good man, can you give me some true qi next time? We'll talk about it when we have time. Lin Yi brushed her off. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Tang Yun is waiting for me to go buy a house with her family. Lingshan could tell that Lin Yi was brushing her off, but she didn't give up. She wouldn't believe that Lin Yi would just give her true qi like that. Tang Yun? Yu Tian paused at the name. It was a girl's name? He didn't know what her relationship with Lin Yi was, but it seemed like Lin Yi was quite popular with girls. Lingshan did have a lot of competitors. Lin Yi left the room, and only Lingshan and Yu Tian were left. Lingshan's expression returned to her cold face, as if she wasn't the one acting like a spoiled child. Yu Tian sighed. A person could change so quickly? It seems like you have quite a lot of competitors. Yu Tian let go of this relationship completely. The moment he saw Lin Yi, he knew the difference between him and Lin Yi. He didn't have any fantasies anymore. Once he calmed down, he could start joking around with Lingshan. So what? Lingshan was surprised at Yu Tian's attitude. In an instant, she felt that Yu Tian's attitude towards her had calmed down a lot. This way, they could be good friends. At least she didn't hate him anymore. You're finally giving up? Yeah, so what if I don't? I'm not his match. Yu Tian shrugged, mocking himself. I didn't expect it to be him. If it was him, I would have given up a long time ago. I wouldn't have come here to embarrass myself. You knew Lin Yi from before? Lingshan could tell from Yu Tian's words that something was off. I can't say. Yu Tian shook his head. Lingshan smiled. You're making me feel a lot more comfortable now. You used to be a yes man and you didn't have any manliness at all. Yeah, this is my weakness too. I've been suppressed by you since I was young. I couldn't even think of fighting back. Yu Tian nodded. So, I'm not destined to be your Mr. Right. I'm more like a follower. There are plenty of good girls. With your Qin family and your own strength, you'll be able to find a woman. Lingshan patted Yu Tian's shoulder. I think it's better to treat you as a brother. Okay, then we're good brothers from now on. Although Yu Tian had given up, his tone was still bitter when he said that. How's Grandpa Chen? Lingshan hadn't visited old Chen in a long time. Ever since she knew that old Chen wanted to propose marriage, the relationship between the two became much more distant. Chapter 730. An awkward scene. Yu Tian didn't continue, believing that Lingshan would understand. Marriage is just a small thing. Even if I marry you, I won't be able to help you if there's a conflict between House Chen and House Song, Lingshan said faintly. So, even though we're brothers now, and I don't dare say anything about House Song when the time comes, I'll personally support you. I'm happy to hear that. Chen Yutian smiled. Lin Yi left the ICU and went straight to Tang Yun's room. Mrs. Tang had woken up early this morning, wanting to buy a house. She couldn't sleep until the wee hours of the morning because of the family's big event. She opened the door for Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang was all smiles. "Yi, you're here. And where's Tang Yun?" Lin Yi asked after seeing that Tang Yun wasn't in the room. "In the washroom. We're buying a house today, so she woke up early to wash up." Mrs. Tang said, "Have you guys had breakfast? When are we leaving?" Lin Yi asked. "Not yet. We're just going to grab a bite on the way," Mrs. Tang said. "Right, Yi, I want to discuss something with you." "What is it?" Lin Yi sat on the sofa waiting for Tang Yun. "What do you think? Should I use the money to buy a retail store and start a small business with your Uncle Tang, or should I put the money in the bank and earn interest?" Mrs. Tang was conflicted. 3 million in the bank. There's at least 100,000 in interest, right? What can I do to earn that much money back? Lin Yi wasn't good at managing finances, or else he wouldn't have let Fatty Lai manage the company. "I'll ask my friend later."
See what he says.
"He's an experienced businessman." "That's good. Let's ask him then." Mrs. Tang nodded. Tang Yun finished washing up and came out of the bathroom. She was still in her pajamas. She didn't expect Lin Yi to come so early. She was washing her hair in the bathroom and couldn't hear anything from outside under the sound of the water. So when Lin Yi came, she was shocked. The summer pajamas were thin, and Tang Yun wasn't wearing a bra. Her breasts were exposed, and her body was exposed. Tang Yun saw Lin Yi staring at her. She was a little embarrassed, but at the same time she was happy. Tang Yun would be sad if Lin Yi wasn't interested in her. However, the situation was a bit embarrassing, and the two hadn't reached that point yet. Tang Yun lowered her head, took off her coat, and rushed into the washroom without saying anything to Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang didn't know what was wrong with her daughter. She didn't say anything when she saw Lin Yi. Why was she throwing a tantrum? "Do you really think you're the young miss?" She couldn't help but feel a little angry. She got up to open the bathroom door and scolded, "Yun, what are you doing? Why aren't you greeting Lil Yi?" I'm getting dressed." Tang Yun was startled. She had just taken off her pajamas, and her chest was in a vacuum state. She was shocked when the bathroom door was opened, but she let out a sigh of relief when she saw her mother. "Just get dressed. Lil Yi isn't an outsider. It's not a big deal if he looks. I don't know what you're thinking about all day." Mrs. Tang felt that she had to hold onto Lin Yi's son-in-law tightly. It hadn't been long, and they were already a millionaire. Wouldn't they have billions and billions in the future? She didn't think that she had the potential to be a rich woman. Mrs. Tang was happy. She was thinking about how to make her daughter hold onto Lin Yi's heart. She didn't want her beautiful life to be ruined if they really broke up. Tang Yun was angry and embarrassed. She glared at her mother. She didn't know what her mother was thinking. She was a girl. Wasn't she afraid of losing out? "What are you looking at? Hurry up and get dressed. You woke up early to go to the market. The good houses will be sold later. What do you think?" Mrs. Tang was in a hurry to look at the houses. She didn't have money in the past, so she didn't think about these things. But now that she had money, she was afraid that the good spots would be taken by others. Okay, I'm dressed." Tang Yun got dressed. It was a normal shirt and the new shorts she bought yesterday. It was a good match. She walked out of the bathroom with her mother. Tang Yun was a little embarrassed and didn't dare to look at Lin Yi. On the other hand, Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he saw that Tang Yun wasn't wearing her school uniform. The flaws couldn't hide the beauty. Although the clothes Tang Yun was wearing were cheap street stalls, it was still very beautiful on Tang Yun. Lin Yi called Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai heard that Tang Yun's family was going to buy a house today, so he prepared early in the morning and waited for Lin Yi and Tang Yun to come. Speaking of Fatty Lai, he didn't sleep at all last night. He was working overtime in the factory, urging the workers to make the antidote for the deadly 7 herbs poison. They were finally done at 2 in the morning and shipped to the hospital without a moment's delay. After using it on the unconscious students, all of them were awake. Their bodies were still weak, but they were no longer in danger. It had to be said that the effect of the antidote was very obvious. Although it wasn't the legendary cure, the effect was already very effective in most people's eyes. Especially the parents of the students. They were very grateful to Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company. When they were interviewed by the reporters, they didn't hesitate to praise Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company. As for the responsibility of the school and Pengzhan Industries, it was negligible. The culprit had already turned himself in, and the culprit had already been investigated. Every debt has its debtor, so the parents wouldn't blame the school for it. Moreover, the students were fine now, so it wasn't good for them to continue making trouble. After all, in front of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's willingness to help, they would become the public enemy if they continued to hold on to this matter. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, had made it very clear when he delivered the medicine. It was all because of his personal relationship with Pengzhan that he had worked overtime to make the medicine. What else could the parents say? The parents who wanted to transfer schools also calmed down. It had nothing to do with their children. Why would they transfer schools? The situation was very clear now. The school wasn't a bioterrorism base, and it wasn't because of lax management. Someone deliberately poisoned the students. This was unavoidable everywhere, and other schools might not be safe. Thus, this matter came to an end. Pengzhan would hold a press conference today. After Fatty Lai was done with these matters, he waited to help Lin Yi buy a house. Chapter 731. Parking conflict. Yes, where is it? Lin Yi asked. It's at 528 Changdong Avenue. The building is called Changxiang Garden. You'll see it when you come here, Fatty Lai said. Okay, you go ahead with your work. I'll be there in a while. I'll call you when I've decided on the unit, Lin Yi said. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi turned to Mrs. Tang and said, Andy, let's go pick out a house later. I'll get someone to give us a discount based on the house size we like. There's a better discount? That's great. Mrs. Tang liked to take advantage of others, so when she heard what Lin Yi said, she was elated. She heard that the real estate was already on sale, so how could she not be happy if she could get a discount on top of that? She increasingly felt that Lin Yi was a good man. If her daughter were to follow him, she wouldn't have to worry about anything in the future. The three of them sat in Lin Yi's van and headed towards Changdong Avenue. Although Lin Yi's car wasn't much, Mrs. Tang thought it was good enough to have a car. How many people in the shantytown owned a car? Tang Yun, did you ask for leave? Lin Yi was used to skipping class, but Tang Yun was a good student, so she rarely skipped class. There was a poisoning incident at school yesterday, so there's no class today. I heard that the chairman of Pengzhan Industries is going to hold a press conference and many students and parents are going to attend. So, the school is temporarily self-studying. Tang Yun thought of Meng Yao when she mentioned the chairman of Pengzhan Industries. Meng Yao gave Tang Yun the feeling that she didn't have the bad habits of rich kids at all. She was a little arrogant, but she was easy to get along with. Changxiang Garden's location was not bad. Changdong Avenue was one of the newly built third ring road this year. Hence, on the first day of Changxiang Garden's opening, it attracted many property buyers. The entrance of Changxiang Garden sales office was already filled with cars. It took him a while to find a parking spot, and he parked the car in. A horn sounded from behind him, followed by a man cursing loudly. Where the hell did you come from? J8 van. I saw this spot first. Why'd you take it away from me? Motherf asterisk cur, pour out. Lin Yi frowned and got out of the car, only to see a bald man sticking his head out of a BMW parked behind his car and cursing. Watch your mouth, don't get yourself into trouble. Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently and said, F asterisk CK, I don't know what to do with the broken bread. The bald man didn't expect Lin Yi to dare to talk back and threaten him. He immediately became angry. Do you believe that I won't kill you? With that said, the bald man started the car and rushed toward Lin Yi. Of course, he was just trying to scare Lin Yi. He wouldn't dare to crash into him. After all, if he killed someone in front of everyone, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. At that time, He was afraid that he would go to jail. Although he had money, this kind of thing wasn't easy to settle. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Just as the BMW was about to slam into him, Lin Yi raised his leg and kicked the hood of the BMW, causing it to stop abruptly. The bald man was shocked. There was actually someone who could step on a car and stop it? Who is this person? He suddenly felt guilty. Although he often went out to act bad *SS, he still didn't dare to act bad *SS when he encountered such a ruthless character. If he didn't act well, he would be beaten up. Therefore, although the bald man was angry, he didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi. He stopped the car and quickly got out. He found that the hood of his car was stepped on. He was even more afraid, but he didn't want to show weakness. He snorted coldly, "Kid, you're good. Let's wait and see." He didn't dare to let Lin Yi repair his car, and he didn't care about the repair fee. He said ruthless words to regain some face. He was the boss of the Shinsuin taxi company. He had some money on hand. Today, he came to buy a house with the money he had just bought. Naturally, he didn't want to let the boss look down on him. Heh? Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything. This kind of person was almost everywhere, so Lin Yi didn't need to be angry because of this kind of person. The bald man glared at Lin Yi and returned to the car. He said to the woman in the front passenger seat, "What is he? He doesn't know how to drive a broken car. He's just a bumpkin. Watch how I deal with him later." CEO Wu, don't bother with this kind of person. Being angry with him is degrading. How could the woman not see that her man didn't dare to go head-on with Lin Yi? However, she wouldn't say it out loud. If she did, CEO Wu would be angry and forget about buying a house. Yeah, it seems like they are here to buy a house. When the time comes, let's see what they want to buy and give them a hard time. CEO Wu nodded, started the car, and went to find another parking space. Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang got out of the car. They also saw the scene before, but they didn't know what exactly happened. Since Lin Yi had solved it, there was no need to ask. The three of them walked into the sales center. Immediately, a sales lady greeted them and began to introduce the real estate in Chongxiang Gardens to Mrs. Tang. It had to be said that Fatty Lie's management was quite good. Mrs. Tang didn't look like a rich person, but the sales lady didn't look down on her because of that. Is there a discount for buying a house here? Mrs. Tang was most concerned about the discount. She didn't wait for the sales lady to finish her introduction and asked. She didn't care if there were schools around the house or if there was a business district. What she cared about was the price of the house. The price was cheap, but it didn't matter if there was nothing else. Her daughter was going to university. What did it matter to her whether there was a school or not? Not to mention the business district. Other than the wholesale market, her family's food and necessities came from the night market. They couldn't afford to go to those high-end shopping malls. Yes, there's a promotion today. All the units are 5% off, and if you buy the house in full, you can enjoy a 10% discount. You also have a chance to win the grand prize of the exquisite renovation. The sales lady said. Can it be cheaper? Mrs. Tang asked. This is the price set by the boss. We don't have the right to change it, the sales lady smiled. Okay, then let's look at the location and the units. Mrs. Tang nodded. The sales lady brought Lin Yi and the others to look at the sand table. Mrs. Tang chose a building with better lighting and location and said, I want this building, right? Do you have the floor plan? Yes. Please wait a moment. The sales lady found the floor plan and passed it to Mrs. Tang. Chapter 732. Don't treat me like this in the future, Ani. You really have good taste. This building is one of the best locations in the entire district, second only to the villas and the bungalows over there. Not only does it have a good view, there aren't any tall buildings blocking it. It's very spacious. The sales lady introduced. Lil Yi, what do you guys think? What type of apartment do you guys think we should get? Mrs. Tang couldn't make up her mind. It was easy to choose a building from the sand table. It was easy to see which location was good and which wasn't. The building that Mrs. Tang chose was in a good location, and the price wasn't too high. This was something that Mrs. Tang and Tang Yin agreed on. There were many different types of apartments in this building, and they had to discuss which one to choose and which floor to go with. Mrs. Tang was excited at first, thinking that buying a house was easy. But now that she was standing here, she realized that buying a house wasn't that easy. At least for now, Mrs. Tang was a little dizzy. Every floor had its own benefits. The first floor could be used for business, the second and third floors were more convenient for older people, the fourth and fifth floors were the golden floors, and the sixth and seventh floors were cheap and had a good view. It wasn't easy to choose. Let's get a 3-bedroom unit? Linny looked at the layout and suggested, I think this unit is not bad. Linny saw the hesitation on Mrs. Tang's face and suggested, That's fine. We'll go with this unit then. This unit is 120 square meters. Isn't it a little big? Mrs. Tang was afraid that it would be too expensive. Annie, if you look at this unit, you have to hurry up because there is only one unit left on the third floor. The others have been sold. The sales lady said, It can be seen that this unit is very good. Everyone's judgment is not wrong.
Ah.
Only the third floor is left? Mrs. Tang was shocked and nervous. This unit was too easy to sell, wasn't it? She wanted to decide, but she couldn't make the decision. After all, she had never made a decision like this in her life. Let's go with the third floor. The lighting is good, and it's easy to go upstairs. Lin Yi smiled. Ugh, then the third floor. We'll pick this one. Mrs. Tang nodded. Can we look at the existing house? That's naturally not a problem. Please follow me. The sales lady nodded and said to the other customers nearby, Is there anyone else who wants to see the quality of the existing houses? I'm heading over now. Follow me if you're with me. Let's go too. The bald boss Wu walked over with his mistress and said proudly. Under the watchful eyes of the public, he was not afraid of Lin Yi. There were security guards here. He did not believe that Lin Yi would dare to hit him. If he really hit someone, he would definitely make him suffer the consequences. With his power in Songshan City, how could he not be able to kill a kid driving a van? Lin Yi saw that the bald boss Wu also came to join in the fun, but he didn't bother with him. He sneered at him. If he wanted to follow, then so be it. He had no reason to chase away the guy who came to give money to Fatty Lai. They left the sales office with the sales lady and got on an electric car. The bald boss Wu's perverted eyes glanced at Tang Yun's body and then looked at Lin Yi with jealousy. This girl was so beautiful, but she was taken by this poor kid. God must be blind. He looked at the mistress beside him. Obviously, she was not just one level lower than him. If Tang Yun was his mistress, he would buy her a villa, not to mention this building. The bald boss Wu was thinking about how to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun. He had to admit that the bald boss Wu was very good at reading people. He could see that Tang Yun's mother was a typical greedy woman. If he offered enough benefits, Mrs. Tang would persuade her daughter to follow him. So, as long as he was strong enough and made that little bastard Lin Yi suffer, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to get the beauty back. Thinking up to this point, CEO Wu was overjoyed. His hand that was hugging his mistress became naughty. His mistress was also flirtatious. She panted on the electric scooter, making the sales lady and Tang Yun blush. They thought, why is this person like this? Doesn't he know shame? If he wanted to touch her, he could touch her at home. Why did he touch her here? Lin Yi squeezed Tang Yun's hand and smiled. Tang Yun was even more embarrassed. She glared at Lin Yi and whispered, Don't do this to me in the future. Ha! You're different from her. The woman beside the bald boss Wu is just playing with you, Lin Yi understood. Then, you aren't just playing with me? Tang Yun was nervous. Although she had an answer in her heart, the Miss, Yushu, Guan Xian, and even Ling Shan made her feel uneasy. I'm just playing with you, Lin Yi smiled. You're so annoying. Why do you sound so bad? Tang Yun got the answer she wanted and pouted. CEO Wu looked at Lin Yi and Tang Yun flirting with each other in front of him. His eyes were red with jealousy. Motherfucker. He had to get his hands on this girl. Mrs. Tang's mind was filled with the house. She didn't hear the flirting sounds between the bald boss Wu and his mistress. She didn't hear the whispers between her daughter and Lin Yi. Her mind was completely focused on the surrounding environment and the houses. There was such a beautiful area. Mrs. Tang's eyes widened as she looked at the green construction. Compared to the previous shanty town, this was 100 times, 1,000 times better. There was a small park, a pavilion, a man-made lake, and the houses were so beautiful. If she could live in this area in the future, wouldn't she become a rich person? High-class person? We're here. It's here. The sales lady parked the electric scooter in front of a beautiful building. Wow, it's so beautiful. Mrs. Tang looked at the building in front of her. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. We can see the park downstairs from here? It's not bad. Yeah, that's why this building is selling fast. This kind of big apartment is quite popular. Now there's only the 3rd floor left. If you like it, you should hurry up and sign the contract. Otherwise, it might be taken by someone else. The sales lady nodded. Mrs. Tang became anxious after hearing the sales lady's words. She nodded. Then let's go up and take a look first. Hubby, it's so beautiful here. Can you buy it for me? The mistress, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly spoke to the bald boss Wu. Chapter 733. Raising the price, you are too good to me. The honey hugged the bald man and kissed him fiercely before going upstairs with the sales lady. Mrs. Tang fell in love with the new house on the 3rd floor. Wasn't it too beautiful? Bright floor-to-ceiling windows, a comfortable layout, and a large living room. It was the dream house that was often seen on TV. Mrs. Tang gritted her teeth and decided to buy it. She must buy it. This house was too beautiful. How much is this house? Mrs. Tang asked nervously. Auntie, this house is 950,000, the sales lady said after looking at the sales booklet.
Ah,
that's expensive. Mrs. Tang's heart ached. Although she just received 3 million yesterday, she didn't want to give away the money in her hands. She asked, can this house be any cheaper? I'm sorry, Annie, my authority is limited to the discounts I mentioned before. If you want more discounts, you'll have to talk to our boss personally. However, if you are only buying one house, the boss probably won't give you any discounts. The sales lady said honestly. Only 950,000?
so cheap?
CEO Wu spoke up. What discounts do you need for 950,000? It's too cheap even if you don't want those discounts, right? As he spoke, CEO Wu glanced at his mistress beside him. Yeah, this money is just a drop in the bucket for you, President Wu. It's nothing. The mistress also echoed. It's too cheap. Tang Yin couldn't help but feel annoyed after hearing their words. What were they trying to say? They weren't the ones buying the house. Why were they involved? Tang Yin glared at CEO Wu and his mistress. Mrs. Tang was also very angry. Were these two here to cause trouble? CEO Wu saw that Tang Yin was looking at him and thought that Tang Yin was looking at him. He was overjoyed and got carried away. Shaoli, what do you think of this house? If it's okay, I'll buy it for you. Okay, I like it very much. We will buy this set. Xiaomi, who was called Shaoli, nodded and said happily. Lin Yi snickered in his heart. These two must have teamed up to come here to show off, right? Keep pretending. Let's see how long you can pretend for. Miss, I want this house. Let's sign the contract. Baldy CEO Wu said to the sales lady. Sir, this house was seen by this Annie first. Do you want to wait for this Annie to make a decision before you consider it? The sales lady asked with some embarrassment. You saw her first? What's wrong with liking her? He hadn't bought it yet, had he? If they didn't buy it, it doesn't belong to them. Baldy CEO Wu snorted coldly. Do you know how to do things properly? Whoever pays first gets to hand over the money. They haven't even signed the contract yet. Hurry up and sign it for us. We'll buy it. We'll buy it right now. Mrs. Tang panicked. She had worked so hard to get her eyes on the house. How could it be snatched away by someone else? No, absolutely not. We said we wanted to buy it first. You're too late. Shaoli rolled her eyes at Mrs. Tang in disdain. Look at how poor you are. You can't afford this house. You should save your money and buy a bungalow in the countryside. Why can't we afford it? We saw it first, so we have the priority to buy it. Tang Yun was furious when she heard Xiao Li's words. She glared at Xiao Li and retorted, "Forget it. There's no point in arguing with you." Baldy's CEO wanted to show off his strong image. He turned to the sales lady and said, "How about this? 950,000 yuan. I don't want any of the discounts. Hurry up and sign the contract." The sales lady was in a dilemma. If CEO Wu didn't want a discount, then she would definitely be praised by the boss after she sold the house. Her bonus this month wouldn't be small. But if she did that, it would be unfair to Mrs. Tang's family. Isn't there a saying that goes like this? The highest bidder wins. If we offer a higher price, it belongs to us. What are you hesitating for? Xiao Li said to the sales lady and looked at Mrs. Tang provocatively. We don't want the discount. If you don't want the discount, we will sell it to you.
Can you not want it?
Mrs. Tang's face turned red. How could there be such a person? However, she really needed the discount. We don't want the discount either, Tang Yun said. Although her heart ached, Lin Yi was holding her hand from behind. She knew that it was Lin Yi's intention, so she said it. Oh. Baldy's CEO Wu was surprised. He didn't expect Tang Yun to be so decisive. However, how could he give up the house that he got? On one hand, he couldn't afford to lose face in front of his mistress. On the other hand, he wanted to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun and her mother. If he ran away with his tail between his legs, how could he show off his strength? Thinking of this, Baldy gritted his teeth and said, "How about this? I'll pay 1 million.
Sign the contract."
The sales lady was dumbfounded. She had only heard of rich people bidding against each other to buy villas, but she had never heard of people bidding against each other to buy a normal house. Moreover, the price increased by 50,000 yuan. Wasn't this too unbelievable? 1 million. What are you waiting for? Don't you want your bonus? If your boss knew that you didn't want the money, he would fire you. Xiao Li threatened the sales lady. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang awkwardly. We will pay 1 million too. Tang Yun had no choice but to raise the price. Since Lin Yi was hinting for her to continue bidding, Tang Yun didn't want to, but she still made a bid. CEO Wu frowned. He didn't expect Tang Yun to raise the price with him. Did they have that much money? Driving a broken van wasn't even worth 20,000 yuan. She dared to raise the price by 50,000 yuan? Could it be that he really wanted to go against him? However, CEO Wu couldn't show weakness now. If Tang Yun could afford it, why couldn't he? He was the boss of XINCUN Taxi Company. It was the biggest taxi company in Songshan. He had Sihua Bro's support. If he really gave up today and left with his tail between his legs, not only would he lose his face, but he would also lose Sihua Bro's face. So, even if CEO Wu felt that it wasn't worth it to increase the price to buy a house, he had no choice. He had no way out now. He could only bite the bullet and say, 1,100,000 yuan. I don't have time to waste with them. Hurry up and sign the contract. Chapter 734.
Who are you talking about?
Spending 1 million yuan on a 950,000 yuan house? Is this for real? In front of this building, 1 million could buy a house that was even bigger than this one. The location and lighting were also similar. We'll pay 1 million too. Tang Yun said and saw Lin Yi squeezing her hand again. We'll pay 15 million.
Huh?
CEO Wu looked at Tang Yun in disbelief. She dared to pay a higher price than him? Where did she get her confidence from? Was she trying to look impressive? But seeing Lin Yi's actions, CEO Wu understood that Lin Yi was going against him. Great. You still dare to increase the price? He felt that Lin Yi's limit was 15 million. Otherwise, why didn't he pay 2 million? He didn't have much money left. He couldn't pay that much. Therefore, CEO Wu gritted his teeth and said, 1.
2 million.
1. 2 million. Hurry up and sign the contract. On the other hand, CEO Wu felt that spending 2 million yuan to buy a 950,000 yuan house was a bit extravagant, but he had successfully gained face. He had also successfully displayed his strength in front of Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun. He felt a sense of accomplishment. This was the first step to success. Then, he just needed to humiliate Lin Yi and he could talk to Mrs. Tang about Tang Yun being Tang Yun's sugar daddy. Oh, then I'll sell it to you. Let's look at the others. Tang Yun got Lin Yi's hint and shook her head. This one isn't ideal. 2 million isn't worth it. Not worth it? I think you guys don't have money? Xiao Li said sarcastically. She was very happy in her heart. Baldy Boss Wu had bought such an expensive house for her, which made her feel very proud. We don't spend money recklessly. Tang Yun pouted. Luckily, Lin Yi only asked Baldy's CEO Wu to spend some money and didn't use his own money to buy a house. Otherwise, Tang Yun would have fallen asleep at the thought of spending an extra 25 yuan on a house. Seeing that Tang Yun's family had given up, the sales lady didn't make things difficult for them anymore. Since someone was willing to pay a high price to buy the house, why not? Sir, shall we sign the contract now? The sales lady asked. Nonsense. I finally succeeded in the bidding. What if someone else snatches it from me? Baldy's CEO Wu glared at the real estate sales lady and shouted. Okay, then we'll go back to the sales office to sign the contract. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang apologetically. Auntie, why don't you come back with me? I'll help you find another good house? Okay. Mrs. Tang had no other choice. She didn't want to spend another 250,000 yuan on a house. Moreover, Mrs. Tang wanted to make it cheaper on this basis. Can your daughter find this boyfriend? What's the big deal about spending 25 more? It's just a piece of cake for me. Baldy's CEO went downstairs and casually said to Mrs. Tang when he got on the electric car. Mrs. Tang glared at him and didn't reply. She thought to herself, if my son-in-law was an idiot like you, adding 200,000 yuan to buy a house, that would be unacceptable. Since my son-in-law is buying a house for me, the cheaper the better. Baldy shrugged his shoulders when Mrs. Tang didn't reply. He started hugging his sweetheart again. This person is so annoying. Tang Yun complained to Lin Yi softly after getting on the car. There are so many houses. Why would I be afraid that I can't find a suitable one? Let alone 250,000 yuan. I can afford it even if it's 1 million yuan. But can Annie accept it? Lin Yi smiled. Of course not. You should find a cheaper one for her. Otherwise, if she really spends too much money, she'll get sick. Tang Yun sighed. She understood her mother's personality. The six of them returned to the sales office. The sales lady first signed the contract for Baldy's CEO Wu. The contract was ready-made. She just downloaded it from the computer and printed it. Baldy's CEO Wu waved his pen and was about to sign his name on the contract. His sweetheart was a little unhappy. Didn't we agree to write my name? Why did it change again? Baldy's CEO Wu shifted his target to Tang Yun. No matter how he looked at it, Tang Yun was much stronger than Xiao Li, so he didn't want to invest too much in Xiao Li, so he played a trick when he signed the contract. He didn't expect Xiao Li to be so smart, pointing it out right away. I forgot. Baldy's CEO Wu laughed. He was showing off in front of Tang Yun and her mother. How could he show weakness now? If Mrs. Tang thought that he was stingy and didn't even buy a house for a woman, then why would she help him persuade Tang Yun? Xiao Li wrote her name on the paper with a smile and kissed Boss Wu happily. Sir, you can pay now. May I know if you want to pay in cash or by bank card? The sales lady was very happy that she sold a house. Her boss would definitely praise her if she sold it for an extra 250,000 yuan, right? Nonsense. Of course, by bank card. Who would bring more than 1 million yuan out of the house? Isn't that an idiot who has never seen money? Baldy stared at the sales lady unhappily and took out a bank card. CKU. Who are you calling an idiot? A big guy carrying a big black plastic bag suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He grabbed the bald CEO Wu's collar and said, "Do you want to die?"
Ah, brother, I'm sorry.
"I wasn't talking about you." CEO Wu was shocked. This big guy gave him a much stronger visual impact than Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was quite powerful and could stop the car with a kick, he wasn't that big. Baldy Wu didn't think that he was that scary. However, this big guy in a black singlet with tattoos all over his body gave Baldy's CEO Wu a shock. Moreover, even if the security guards came, he was the one in the wrong, who asked him to call someone an idiot. Therefore, CEO Wu quickly apologized. I don't have time to waste with you, Baldy. I can use this bag of money to kill you." The big guy was obviously in a hurry to do something. He let go of CEO Wu and left, which made CEO Wu heave a sigh of relief. Chapter 735. The same price, that's just a small amount of money. It doesn't matter. "Xiao Li, if you want to go for the lottery, then go for it," CEO Wu said casually. Actually, he wanted to win the lottery, but if he acted like he cared too much about it, wouldn't it make him look greedy? That wouldn't do. His previous image would be in vain. "Of course, I like it. My luck is good. Let's see how lucky I am." Xiao Li was eager to try. "Sir, you bought the house at a high price. Why don't I help you ask the manager to give you 2 chances to draw the lottery?" the sales lady asked. "It's nothing. What do you think, Xiao Li?" CEO Wu's heart started to move. He spent 250,000 yuan for nothing. It was a huge loss. If he got the special or first prize during the lottery, wouldn't he earn it all back? However, he didn't want to show it directly. He asked Xiao Li, "That's not good, right? We'll draw twice." Xiao Li opened her mouth and saw CEO Wu's face darken. She was shocked and didn't dare to continue. CEO Wu was furious. "Are you King stupid? You don't want it even if I give it to you for free? You have money now, right?" "It's nothing. I'll apply for it for you now." The sales lady didn't notice CEO Wu's expression and said with a smile. This time, CEO Wu was very pleased with the real estate sales lady. She had finally done a good deed. The manager of the sales office was accompanying Fatty Lai. He didn't expect the boss of the group to come here personally. After receiving a call from the sales lady, Manager Wang said to Fatty Lai, "CEO Lai, I'll go over first. There's a sales lady looking for me to deal with something. Let's go and have a look together." Fatty Lai didn't have anything to do. Fatty Lai didn't follow Lin Yi when he said he wanted to look at the house first. Fatty Lai guessed that Lin Yi didn't want to give Tang Yan's family a house directly, so he didn't want to be too attentive. Manager Wang and Fatty Lai found the sales lady. Fatty Lai saw Lin Yi and Tang Yan at the side. He was stunned. However, when he saw Lin Yi's eyes, he understood that Lin Yi didn't want him to be too obvious. Lin Yi was actually thinking for Tang Yan's sake. Tang Yan's personality was strong, and she wouldn't want to accept a house for no reason. She wouldn't be able to say anything if Fatty Lai sold it to her at a discount. "Mr. Lin, Miss Tang, Auntie Tang." Fatty Lai greeted Lin Yi and Tang Yan passionately. The sales lady didn't know Fatty Lai, so she didn't know what Fatty Lai did. She wasn't surprised and directly said to Manager Wang, "Manager Wang, this is what happened. This Mr. Wu and this Annie both had their eyes on the same house. This Mr. Wu and this Annie had a bidding war. In the end, Mr. Wu won the house at a price higher than the original price. Now that he has paid and signed the contract, can we give him a few more chances to draw the lottery?" Manager Wang was surprised. There was such a person. Spending 250,000 for a house? Did he hear it wrong? But when he saw the contract the sales lady handed over, he believed that it wasn't a joke. Manager Wang was puzzled. What was the relationship between CEO Lai Lin Yi and the auntie who participated in the bidding? If he agreed to let him draw the lottery a few more times, would he offend CEO Lai? So he couldn't help but look at Lai Chang'e. He might not win even if he draws a few more times. Mrs. Tang curled her lips and said with disdain, Manager Wang heard Mrs. Tang's words and obviously didn't care about CEO Wu drawing the lottery. He nodded and agreed. Okay, 3 times. I'll give him 2 more chances. Sir, you can go draw the lottery now. Shaoli, go ahead. The bald CEO Wu waved his hand without a care. Mrs. Tang had never seen Lai Changyi before. She didn't know what Lai Changyi did, but seeing that he was respectful to her, she nodded in confusion. Hello, you are? Auntie, I'm Mr. Lin's friend. He asked me to help you research a special price house. Lai Changyi said. Tang Yin glanced at Fatty Lai. Who was he putting on a show for? You're lying to my mom, right? Tang Yun wasn't stupid. She knew that Lin Yi cared about her face and wouldn't let Fatty Lai give her a house directly. Instead, he would sell the house at a low price to help her family. Although Tang Yin was touched, she also felt uncomfortable. She felt that Lin Yi was colluding with Fatty Lai to lie to her. However, Tang Yin thought of her mother's personality and immediately understood Lin Yi's good intentions. If Fatty Lai acted like he was Lin Yi's follower, then her mother wouldn't spend a single cent at all. She might even ask Fatty Lai for a house. If her mother asked for a house, what would she do? What would she do? Thinking of this, Tang Yin couldn't help but feel grateful for Lin Yi's actions. So that's how it is. I finally got my eyes on a house and I was wondering if I could get a discount. In the end, that person bought it for 250,000 yuan. I'm so pissed. Mrs. Tang saw that Lin Yi found a friend to help her and immediately complained. Do you have any houses similar to this one? It's best if you can give me a discount.
Do you?
Fatty Lai looked at Manager Wang and asked. Yes. Manager Wang was shocked. What kind of relationship did this Annie have? How could she order CEO Lai to speak? He quickly opened the sales booklet and looked for it. Then he said, there's another building beside the one that Annie has her eyes on. It's just that it's 30 meters bigger than this one. The price is 2 million.
What?
Even if it's 30 meters bigger than this one, it's still 2 million? Baldy Boss Wu also heard Manager Wang's call. He instantly widened his eyes and asked subconsciously. He spent the same amount of money, but bought a small house. What kind of logic was this? Yes, the floor plan is the same as yours, but it's the building next to yours. The sales lady nodded and smiled at the bald CEO Wu. Why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you say that this was the only one left? At this moment, CEO Wu couldn't care less about being pretentious anymore. He had spent an extra 250,000 yuan for no reason. The other side was 30 meters bigger than his and had the same floor plan, but it was only 2 million yuan. Wasn't he a big shot? You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.